An official announcement declares that they're the chosen qualified candidates for the position. A presenter addresses the seated audience from a brightly lit stage in the auditorium. The dark-haired man reflects on the familiar name of the company, Daydream Incorporated. A pair of hands carefully holds a mysterious black box bearing a strange emblem. The presenter enthusiastically congratulates the audience on their assignment to the field exploration team. A dark revelation labels the team as a tragic death squad, prompting silent confusion. Nearby employees whisper in confusion, admitting they have never heard of such a team. The sinister reality reveals that new recruits are thrust into a brutal life-or-death survival test. Panic sets in as he prepares to run, desperately realizing he must escape. Confusion ripples through the darkness as the recruits wonder what is happening around them. The presenter clarifies that a brief probationary period will determine their final employment status. The speaker explains that they will be judged solely on their practical job aptitude. The presenter gleefully emphasizes that active participation from everyone is absolutely mandatory. A sharp snap of fingers delivers a warning that no freeloaders will go unnoticed. Sudden darkness envelops the room, causing the crowd to question the sudden door closure. The scene shifts to passengers inside a dimly lit subway car reacting with sheer panic. A chilling announcement over the intercom welcomes passengers to the unstoppable Abyss Metro. The intercom instructs everyone to listen closely for a comfortable trip to their final destination. A reflective question asks if one has ever been completely captivated by something deep. True obsession goes beyond simple fun, driving someone to spend endless time and money. This deep devotion manifests in simple actions, such as eagerly purchasing exclusive merchandise. The focus turns to an incredibly popular internet ghost story universe capturing massive attention. An open-source collective universe allows online users to contribute their own horror stories. Starting as a modest student website, the platform exploded in popularity through the algorithm. Thousands of reports document explorations into a terrifying paranormal phenomenon known as the darkness. A hand busily clacks away on a keyboard, inputting data into a spreadsheet. Boss suddenly appears behind the sweating employee, commenting on his apparent diligence. A funny truth notes how anything is more entertaining than actual office work. Completely drawn into the universe, he eventually began writing and posting his own stories. Dressed in a dark hoodie, the quiet young man adjusts his cap carefully. Excited crowds gather at a heavily decorated, immersive pop-up event for the franchise. Eager fans line up to purchase adorable plush toy theme after the series. A happy schoolgirl poses beside a bright, glowing welcome sign at the event. The hooded man accidentally bumps past two annoyed students while navigating the busy crowd. The girl turns back, staring with mild surprise at the silent, retreating figure. His hand firmly grips a shopping basket loaded with various themed merchandise and talismans. Onlookers whisper that he is a scalper, but he silently admits it is for himself. Walking away, he wonders how he managed to become so deeply hooked on the series. A spooky arcade-style machine displays the start screen for the Darkness Exploration game. The spinner lands perfectly on the glowing sector, securing him the first-place prize. He stands holding his phone ready, awaiting the next step of his prize redemption. An employee ID card identifies the dopamine-deprived protagonist as Kim Salim of Daydream Incorporated. Mysterious voices ask if he likes the prize and if he will cherish it. Looking down silently under his hood, Kim Salim simply answers with a yes. A distorted, glitchy void violently brands him a liar, shattering the calm atmosphere. A pixelated error screen overlays his terrified face, filled with bizarre rows of numbers. Sinister text lists horrific fates, demanding Kim Salim understand the true meaning of terror. Desperate, repeating glitch text begs the protagonist to wake up from the unfolding nightmare. The words scream repeatedly down the dark panel, melting into a chaotic red void. A mirrored, blood-red greeting welcomes the newly registered explorer to the terrifying darkness. Sweat drips down Kim Salim's face as a loud, congratulatory announcement echoes. The presenter welcomes the talented new recruits who successfully passed the intense hiring competition. Confused about his sudden surroundings, Kim Salim tries to figure out where he is. Kim Salim realizes his jacket has vanished, leaving him even more disoriented. He observes the podium presenter and the excited, positive vibe among his fellow new recruits. Kim Salim deduces that this setup must be an orientation event for a major corporation. A faceless, smiling presenter stands at the podium, welcoming the crowd to the orientation. Kim Salim sits quietly on his chair, clutching a sleek black folder in his lap. A quick click echoes as a presentation file for Daydream Incorporated is opened on a computer. Another click sounds as the cursor selects the final new hire presentation file. Colorful question bubbles prompt a deeper inquiry into the true nature of Daydream Incorporated. Mascot characters explain that the company is famous for hair loss treatments and skin disorder medicine. The cartoon mascots excitedly proclaim that there is even more to the company's success. A vibrant banner proudly declares that the corporation manufactures every essential medicine one could need. Cheerful cartoon animal mascots invite the new hires to join them at the company. A high-pitched microphone screech rings out as the orientation presenter prepares to speak. Kim Salim reflects on why the name Daydream Incorporated feels so familiar. A dark glitching notice reveals the company's insane method of forcing recruits into a survival situation. Realizing the danger, Kim So-liam desperately decides he must escape immediately. The presenter announces a brief probationary period just as a heavy door slams shut. The screen outlines that the recruits will be evaluated solely on their practical job aptitude. The presenter gleefully emphasizes that active participation in this trial is completely mandatory. A chilling announcement over the speakers welcomes everyone aboard the unstoppable Abyss Metro. The recruits panic, wondering if they are trapped inside a virtual reality simulation. Confusion rises as passengers realize the train is moving and the doors are locked shut. A woman with blue-gray hair nervously wonders if this terrifying setup is just an escape room. A grim realization dawns that this is far from simple cutting-edge technology. Kim So-liam silently confirms to himself that this deadly train ride is no game. He laments how impossible it would have been for anyone to foresee this insane situation. Kim So-liam reflects on the cruel irony of falling into a nightmare right after landing a job. While others argue, he looks at his employee ID assigning him to the field exploration team. A dark warning hangs in the air, confirming the start of the death survival test. A mysterious figure on the radio announces that their upcoming stop is called Sorrow. A heavy footstep blends firmly as the train ride plunges him deeper into uncertainty. Kim So-liam stands amidst ghost-like passengers, realizing he is trapped inside a living urban legend. He remembers a past exhausting trip home when he felt unusually tired after work. An exhausted woman with light brown hair listlessly plans her bedtime routine after work. A woman drifts in and out of consciousness during her exhausting subway commute back home. Awakening in a strange train car, she feels a deep sense of dread that something is wrong. He stares out the train window, met only by static and eerie digital distortion. Kim So-liam deduces that the company is using this urban legend to weed out weaker recruits. Static crackles as the intercom repeats the announcement for the upcoming Sorrow station. The system instructs all passengers destined for Sorrow station to prepare to disembark. The doors slide open with a countdown warning that there is no turning back. The recruits peer out the open doors, hesitating at the ominous name of the station. Some passengers contemplate getting off, noting that the platform looks like an ordinary station. As others panic and urge everyone to exit, Kim So-liam curses silently under his breath. A cocky recruit insists that the station is completely safe despite its strange name. A firm voice warns the others that it is safer to remain on the train. Kim So-liam points out the illogical nature of the station's name to deter them from leaving. The brown-haired recruit nervously questions if anyone will assume responsibility if staying on the train ruins them, while Kim So-liam remains silent. The wavy brown-haired recruit suggests they should wait and watch the situation a bit longer, agreeing there might be a point to staying. A system notification loudly warns that the train doors are closing, catching the remaining recruits off guard. Panicked recruits sprint toward the exit as someone desperately screams at everyone to get off the train immediately. A panicked man grunts in pain as he struggles desperately to squeeze through the closing subway doors. A recruit safely outside smugly waves goodbye to the trapped passenger, who cries out in shock as the doors seal shut. Trapped inside, a panicked passenger slams against the doors, realizing with horror that he was unable to escape in time. Kim So-liam watches in frustration, cursing under his breath because the reckless actions of others have ruined his plans. He observes the panicking recruits running blindly out of fear, but he remains deeply concerned about the underlying danger. On the platform, one recruit expresses concern for those left on the train, but his arrogant companion coldly dismisses them. The arrogant recruit boasts about their superior decision to leave, mocking those who hesitated and predicting they will suffer later. A sinister voice from above asks if he agrees, just as dark sludge suddenly splatters on the arrogant recruit's head. His companion turns around in utter shock of the strange sound and splash disrupt their conversation. The scene shifts violently as dark liquid splatters across the red-lit hallway. The sweating recruit gasps in pure terror, trembling as he questions what kind of monstrous entity has appeared before them. Panicking recruits shriek in terror, running desperately as they realize a monstrous creature is descending from the ceiling. A frantic warning echoes through the corridor as dark slime continues to drip heavily from the ceiling. A cry for help rings out as a terrified recruit weeps, desperately begging for anyone to save him. Kim So-liam watches the unfolding horror with a cold, analytical gaze under the red warning lights. He closes his eyes in silent resignation, processing the grim reality of the deadly situation. A crimson warning screen declares that a horrific fate inevitably awaits those who make the wrong decision. Illuminated by the eerie red lights, the remaining recruits stand in silence as their grueling probationary period begins. Dark sludge drips heavily onto the platform as the subway car doors glow with an ominous red light. A dark notification screen announces that the terrifying subway train is now departing the station. A system prompt explains that the paranormal entity known as the Darkness is fundamentally a living ghost story. Explanatory slides reveal that Daydream Incorporated employees are tasked with completing missions inside these terrifying urban legends. A series of notices confirms that the recruit's survival test takes place within a ghost story as the train leaves Sorrow Station. Inside the train, terrified recruits panic, frantically questioning what to do and wondering if someone has already died. An illustrative light novel cover mocks the typical fantasy trope of an overpowered protagonist becoming a model ghost hunter. Kim So-liam wishes his life were a convenient fantasy story, but silently notes there is one massive obstacle. He tightly clasps his hands together, preparing to face the crucial problem that threatens his survival. He admits in a silent scream of despair that he is absolutely terrible with anything related to horror. A flashback shows him reading online ghost stories exclusively in text-only mode to avoid scary backgrounds and music. A system warning notes that he passed out from a harmless cartoon ghost, illustrating his complete inability to handle scary images. He recalls how he avoided ghost story videos, skipped thumbnails, and never included a single image when writing his own stories. In a past online exchange, a ghost requests an image to help shape the story, but Kim So-liam flatly refuses due to his intense fear. The ghost complains that Kim So-liam literally created it, but the writer stubbornly insists that rules are rules. A simple glowing text box emphasizes that his intense fear of horror persists even among fictional entities. Kim So-liam covers his face in deep shame and despair, completely overwhelmed by his severe cowardice. He recalls wiki information about the field exploration team, remembering that they are infamously known as the Expendables. A system prompt prepares to count the total number of survivors remaining inside the silent subway car. Dark transition panel displays a bold number 8 confirming the dwindling number of survivors. Crimson writing on the wall serves as a grim title screen reminding him that he must still work even inside an urban legend. Kim So-liam sighs in defeat, lamenting that his terrifying ordeal had to involve such resentment. Slumped in his seat, he pleads for a quick end to his suffering as a sudden blue light flashes before his eyes. A glowing digital interface suddenly appears, presenting him with a legendary real merchandise box from the series. He stares in surprise, recognizing the exclusive merchandise from the popular franchise he obsessed over. Looking around the tense subway car, Kim So-liam wonders if he is the only one who can see the floating screen. Nearby recruits try to console and help a traumatized, weeping woman rise slowly from the floor. He decides to quietly inspect the mysterious digital notebook, hoping to examine it without drawing attention from the other passengers. A quiet click sounds as a circular device with a golden symbol floats down to Kim So-liam. He holds the device, questioning with total confusion if this is actually just a pop socket. Kim So-liam realizes with surprise that this is official merchandise from his favorite series. Digital timers tick down to 0, signaling the onset of a new transition. A loud beep sounds as a sharp, glitching vertical line pierces through the darkness. Bloody handprints stain the glass as a crimson warning welcomes the new explorers to the darkness. In a flashback, 2 schoolgirls argue in a decorated hallway during a trip to the mall. Wearing a dark hood, Kim So-liam stands among a crowd visiting a specialized promotional pop-up store. Digital screens explain that this supernatural universe is centered around exploring the terrifying anomaly called the darkness. A basket overflowing with exclusive merchandise showcases his extreme dedication as a passionate fan of the series. The store clerk offers him a large bag while nearby shoppers whisper, wondering if he is a reseller. Sweating beneath his hood, Kim So-liam greedily adjusts his cap, determined to keep all the rare items. He gazes at a game machine, lamenting how his corporate job prevented him from playing the event. A cheerful staff member invites him to play just as Kim So-liam frantically decides he must participate. Kim So-liam quietly follows the enthusiastic clerk through the colorful aisles of the pop-up store. The clerk happily explains the rules of the lucky roulette wheel to the hooded customer. The wheel spins rapidly, leaving Kim So-liam hoping he can win the ultimate grand prize. Kim So-liam stares in complete disbelief as the pointer lands exactly where he wanted. The staff erupts in cheers, clapping frantically to congratulate the shocked customer on winning first place. He holds a sleek black box bearing a mysterious emblem, stunned by his unbelievable luck. The clerk asks for his name to instantly customize the explicit first-place reward. A machine begins printing his name onto the prize as a cheerful melody plays in the background. The machine finishes printing a customized employee ID card to complete his custom character profile. Kim So-liam holds up his custom staff card, highly amused by the detailed corporate gimmick. The clerk enthusiastically praises the legendary corporate faction featured on the customized card. Kim So-liam reflects on the typical corporate cliches associated with this infamously dangerous exploration team. Dark silhouettes of prominent named characters from the faction loom in his mind. The clerk gushes over the prize while Kim So-liam silently plans to hide it away forever. Kim So-liam gazes downward with a somber, dark expression as the flashback ends. The scene shifts violently into a dark, distorted void as a sinister, grinning face appears. Scrambled paper letters swirl through a disorienting haze, describing a sudden splitting headache. Kim So-liam snaps out of his daze, remembering how he suddenly woke up in the lecture room. Looking at the pop socket, he realizes its supernatural ability to translate his memories into readable text. A soft click rings out as Kim So-liam firmly attaches the pop socket to the back of his phone. His phone screen glows brilliantly, revealing the official online database entry for the dangerous subway route. The screen displays vital database information regarding the classification and rank of the train entity. He rejoices as the device successfully loads the complex data about this high-difficulty survival situation. Kim So-liam holds his glowing phone, amazed at his fragmented memories compiled into a complete guide. He notes the immense difficulty of recalling every specific survival strategy from this massive collaborative universe. Kim Salam narrows his eyes with absolute focus, knowing he now holds a crucial advantage. He swiftly taps his screen, searching the database for critical information to find a way out. Countless records of successful past escapes display on his phone screen in rapid succession. Looking at his screen, Kim Salam confidently declares that he finally understands the mechanism of escape. He identifies the upcoming station Resentment as the correct location to disembark from the train. Kim Salam looks over his shoulder as the train approaches the next ominous stop. A tense expression crosses his face as he prepares to face the main obstacle of his plan. Nearby, two terrified recruits sit in absolute exhaustion and despair inside the dark train car. A recruit shivers with fear while Kim Salam ponders how to convince the remaining passengers to leave. He glares at the closed train doors, determined to get as many people to exit with him as possible. He envisions a comical scenario where the grateful recruits praise him as a heroic savior. Clasping his head, Kim Salam reluctantly accepts a human duty to save the remaining recruits. Bathed in a tense red light, Kim Salam realizes he cannot escape this nightmare on his own. He recalls that picking the wrong exit leads to stations filled with eyeballs or total darkness. Fearing an upside-down station, he panics over his tendency to faint at any sign of horror. An overwhelming realization hits him that he must convince the others to follow his plan. Standing up, Kim Salam prepares to persuade the remaining passengers to exit the train with him. A database page details the C-Rank Memorial Pop Socket affiliated with the Supernatural Disaster Management Bureau. He reasons that directly blabbing about supernatural phenomena to terrified survivors would only make him look crazy. A sudden, sharp step sounds as Kim Salam decides to focus on building trust first. Utilizing herd mentality, Kim Salam walks through the carriage searching for a vulnerable person to connect with. A weary sigh sounds from nearby, causing Kim Salam to freeze and look back in surprise. A recruit mutters a question, wondering if this crisis is just some online ghost story. He mentally celebrates, realizing he has finally located a perfect candidate for his plan. A soft, trembling sigh escapes a brown-haired woman as she stares helplessly at her phone. A sudden thump startles the brown-haired woman, prompting her to look up with wide, shocked eyes. Sitting beside her, Kim Salam gently inquires if she just mentioned a ghost story. Flustered, Go Young-eun explains that her online horror habits made her compare the situation to a ghost story. A wavy-haired man sitting opposite asks her to share more information to help make sense of the crisis. She recalls the sudden transformation of the lecture hall and the horrifying ways people died. Sweat drips down her face as she trails off in absolute terror at the memory of the guts. She apologizes for speaking the nightmare aloud while Kim Salam observes her rising distress. Kim Salam consoles her, admitting that he also struggles to stay composed when absurd horrors happen. Kim Salam admits he feels nauseous too, leaving the chibi brown-haired woman looking completely bewildered. Go Young-eun smiles and calls him rational, unaware of his secret history of fainting from sheer terror. Their conversation is suddenly interrupted as a shadow falls over them and a voice calls out. Leaning back comfortably, the green-eyed, wavy-haired man asks Kim Salam if they sat next to each other earlier. The wavy-haired man leans in close, curious about the device Kim Salam is holding. The wavy-haired man extends his hand warmly, initiating a friendly introduction. Smiling warmly, the wavy-haired man introduces himself as Big Sahan. Kim Salam freezes in absolute shock, recognizing the name of the legendary character. Panic strikes Kim Salam as he realizes this man is a famous high-ranking protagonist from the lore. His phone confirms Bake Sahan is a highly decorated section chief with over 100 completed operations. Kim Salam stares, trying to reconcile the friendly man with the terrifyingly competent protagonist of his database. Go Young-eun introduces herself to Sahon, though Kim Salam notes her name is completely absent from his database. He deduces that undocumented rookies either left the company quietly or suffered swift, brutal deaths. He recalls that even famous codenamed employees always possessed highly distinctive visual traits. Gripping his knee, Kim Salam curses his luck at encountering such a dangerous, plot-heavy character so early. Extending his hand, Kim Salam introduces himself with a weary but polite greeting. As they talk, the remaining recruits inside the subway carriage begin dividing themselves into small groups. Go Young-eun points out that some recruits are trying to make contact with the next subway carriage. An overhead announcement declares they are approaching a new stop called Rapture Station. The recruits wonder if the station's pleasant name means safety, but Kim Salam knows better. A grim reminder warns that escaping this cursed train is never as simple as picking any station. He notes that the station name themes change constantly, making literal escapes impossible to plan in advance. Despite the constant changes, he remembers there are still predictable patterns to identify. Some stations are themed around colors like red, yellow, and blue. Other stations are named after human organs and body parts like the cochlea or heart. Blood-stained floor reveals that passengers who exited a cochlea station met a gruesome demise. Another fatal pattern involves stations named after specific years. Grim remains show that those who tried to escape at the year 2026 station also failed spectacularly. The narration details that some stations are named after serial killers, showcasing 3 dark silhouettes before a giant menacing eye. Kim Solium closes his eyes, reflecting that a station's positive name has no correlation to its actual safety. As the train doors open to reveal Rapture Station, a recruit suggests disembarking, deeply unsettling Kim Solium. Kim Solium panics internally, fearing that losing his companions will shatter his mental state and doom their escape. Reacting quickly, Kim Solium blocks a dark-haired woman with his arm, urging the passengers to wait. Turning back with focused red eyes, Kim Solium solemnly asks the recruit if she is truly certain. The long-haired woman reacts in confusion, questioning if Kim Solium is sure that the platform is safe. Kim Solium explains to the survivors that the entire supernatural crisis feels exactly like a classic ghost story. Oh Young-gun listens anxiously as Kim Solium points out that gut feelings rarely end well in horror scenarios. Standing near the door, Kim Solium firmly questions if the recruits are willing to risk their lives so carelessly. The long-haired female recruit points at Kim Solium, defensively accusing him of talking nonsense without any real deductions. When asked if there is a hint, Kim Solium calmly confirms that one was already provided. A close-up shot shows a hand raising a single finger, emphasizing the key clue they missed. Kim Solium points upward, declaring that the crucial hint lies within the train's overhead announcement. Shock recruits stare at Kim Solium in absolute disbelief as his explanation catches them completely off guard. A system message advises passengers to listen closely to the train announcements to ensure a comfortable trip. Kim Solium explains that the key to survival is focusing on the announcements and following their instructions. A purple system announcement specifically instructs passengers whose final destination is Rapture Station to disembark. Kim Solium questions the carriage, asking if anyone present actually has Rapture Station as their final destination. A recruit tries to justify leaving, but Kim Solium presses them on whether this station is their true destination. The angry long-haired woman demands to know if Kim Solium will take responsibility if they fail to escape. Kim Solium looks on with fierce determination, firmly declaring that he will take full responsibility for their safety. As the train doors begin to close, Kim Solium expresses a sincere wish that they could have all escaped together. Kim Solium feels relieved that no one can blame him now, just as a sudden commotion erupts. The passengers watch in shock as the people from the neighboring carriage proceed to step onto the platform. A recruit wonders if the departing passengers will be okay, while Kim Solium dreads the horrifying reality about to unfold. Kim Solium watches in horror as unsuspecting recruits eagerly run out onto the brightly lit station platform. A sudden wet squelch sounds as an eager recruit's shoe suddenly sinks into a strange golden liquid on the platform. The passenger screams in agony as a highly corrosive golden fluid rapidly climbs up his body. The recruits shriek in agonizing pain as their flesh completely melts away inside the boiling gold substance. A desperate plea for help echoes through the chamber as the liquid dissolves another victim. An upside-down silhouette of a passenger quickly dissolves into the golden pool of death. A violent splash of golden fluid marks the brutal end of the fleeing passengers on the platform. Only a golden puddle remains of the recruits, displaying a horrifying skeletal shape in their place. Inside the train car, the remaining recruits watch the gruesome dissolution of their peers in paralyzed horror. A terrified male recruit grabs Kim Solium's collar, desperately reminding him of his promise to take responsibility. The panicked recruit frantically asks if Kim Solium can truly guarantee that he will lead them to safety. Kim Solium confidently agrees, though he secretly panics over his shaking legs and his own desperate bluff. The green-eyed, wavy-haired Baek Sa-hoon smiles warmly, praising Kim Solium's impressive courage in such a dire situation. Baek Sa-hoon admires Kim Solium's rare altruism and hopes everything goes exactly as promised. Kim Solium asks Baek Sa-hoon if he has a specific destination in mind, but Sa-hoon claims total ignorance of the situation. Watching the green-eyed chibi Baek Sa-hoon, Kim Solium resolves to keep a close eye on the highly capable protagonist. The passengers sit down as a system announcement commands everyone to remain seated to prevent any accidents. A sudden commotion rings out as a frantic voice announces a brawl breaking out in the front carriage. Looking through the glass, a recruit notes that a fight has broken out, torn between intervening and obeying commands. Kim Solium closes his eyes in somber resignation, whispering that it is already far too late to save them. A dark system window warns that the train is now entering a curved section of the tracks. The subway car violently contorts in a red flash as the passengers scream in sheer terror. Inside the red-lit car, screams of agonizing pain fill the air as blood splatters across the window. The red haze clears as a system notification calmly announces that it is finally safe to stand up. A crimson system message on the blood-spattered train window thanks passengers for their cooperation. Terror grips the survivors as they realize the announcements have been horrifyingly accurate all along. Kim Solium resolves to focus on convincing the remaining recruits to follow his leadership. The passengers are thrown back into absolute panic as a sudden loud warning sounds. A dark system screen sounds an ominous alert that a lost item has been reported. Solium recalls a secret escape clause as the system details a young Type A male's lost item. The crimson alert continues, specifying the lost item belongs to a male in his 20s. A floating realistic eyeball appears as the system reveals the lost item is a left eyeball. The warning reiterates that they must retrieve the left eye of a young Type A male. The survivors listen in dread as the broadcast instructs them to present it to station staff. Kim Solam recognizes this horrific requirement as a documented escape clause from his databases. He remembers that delivering the requested lost item acts as a guaranteed ticket out of here. The passengers mutter in absolute disbelief at the gruesome criteria for escaping this nightmare train. Kim Solam contemplates keeping his knowledge to himself to prevent a deadly panic from unfolding. He worries that a single person escaping would spark lethal jealousy and tear the group apart. A recruit suggests checking if anyone matches the description, and the others nervously agree. The survivors quickly compare their ages and blood types to see who matches the profile. When asked about his blood type, Kim Solam lies and claims he is type AB. A male recruit steps forward, nervously declaring that he matches every single criterion perfectly. The young man breaks into a nervous sweat as the terrifying weight of his confession sinks in. The overhead system announces they are approaching their next destination, Anger Station. Baek Sahan looks on with a calm, pleasant smile, though his red eyes betrayed dark intentions. A platform screen flashes a warning that the carriage doors are about to open. Baek Sahan casually approaches the nervous recruit, verifying that he is indeed blood type A. The train screen confirms they have officially arrived at Anger Station's platform. The announcement declares the doors are opening, while Sahan smiles with half-closed eyes. A hand swiftly reaches down to grab a mobile phone in a fast, blurry motion. Baek Sahan mocks the recruit's misfortune as the young man looks up in sudden terror. A violent slash cuts through the red haze as blood splatters heavily across the phone. The passenger screams as blood erupts from his eye, leaving the carriage in absolute shock. Close-up shows the blinded recruit gritting his teeth in raw, agonizing pain. With a painful shriek, the severely injured passenger collapses heavily backward onto the floor. A panicked recruit screams in absolute terror upon witnessing the sudden, brutal assault. Shocked questions ring out as Sahan stands calmly over the bleeding, screaming man on the floor. Grinning wickedly, Baek Sahan mocks their hesitation to make the necessary sacrifices to escape. The survivors stare in paralyzed horror as the brutal logic of his actions sinks in. The station broadcast repeats his grim instructions for passengers to turn in the lost item. Sahan sneers at the survivors' weakness, criticizing their foolish reliance on others to save them. Go Young-in shouts in furious outrage at his cruelty while Kim Solam watches him quietly. Kim Solam realizes this ruthless pragmatism perfectly aligns with Saehyun's legendary reputation as the Viper. He notes the terrifying duality of the protagonist's warm appearance versus his savage nature. The database records confirm that the famous section chief is indeed a highly dangerous sociopath. He routinely disables any potential competitors to ensure his own survival is absolutely guaranteed. Solam sighs, knowing the brutal attack was entirely unnecessary to complete the escape method. He reaches down toward a ventilation grate to reveal the true mechanism of the station. Solam retrieves a pre-existing glass vial hidden carefully inside the train car's luggage compartment. The label confirms it contains a preserved eye matching a completely different female description. He explains that the challenge is actually a treasure hunt for hidden vials matching the broadcast. Solam decides to humble the arrogant protagonist for crossing the line with his needless cruelty. Solam smugly flashes the correct vial, leaving Baek Sahan staring back in absolute speechless shock. Kim Solam reacts in confusion as a system alert orders disembarked passengers to wait. The announcement warns that station staff will assist them as giant, menacing vials descend. A giant, bloodshot eye stares wide-eyed as a chilling thank you message appears. A red system notification confirms that the lost item was successfully turned in. The survivors in the carriage discuss the horrific situation, noting nobody pities Baek Sahan. Go Young-in voices concern over the recruit's damaged cornea, asking if Kim Solam has medical training. Go Young-in explains she only briefly studied medicine in college, while Kim Solam remains thoughtful. Kim Solam senses the remaining recruits watching him, wondering if they expect his leadership. Go Young-in expresses sympathy for the immense pressure Kim Solam must be feeling right now. Go Young-in apologizes for the collective anxiety while Kim Solam quietly reflects on his goals. Go Young-in shares her own thoughts on the mystery of their final destination. The speech bubble focuses on the concept of the final destination they must reach. Go Young-in nervously suggests that a person's final destination must logically be their death. She wonders if they should disembark whenever a station name closely resembles death. Shot of their boots emphasizes her uncertainty about whether that choice means doom. Kim Solam calls her theory very convincing, making Go Young-in smile with relief. Kim Solam begins to counter her point, leaving her looking slightly confused. Kim Solam smiles warmly, preparing to reveal his own understanding of the puzzle. Kim Solam asks her to define what a destination actually means. As the train approaches Serenity Station, Kim Solam explains a destination requires a purpose. A view of the ceiling highlights the core rules of finding items and staying seated. Kim Solam recalls the horrific dissolution of those who left the train prematurely. The train speeds through a dark tunnel as Kim Solam analyzes the destination clause. He recalls past rules where the key to escaping lay in matching the thematic criteria. Kim Solam focuses on the emotional theme governing the current set of stations. The overhead announcement rings out, declaring their arrival at the calm Serenity Station. Kim Solam confidently announces that this station is the correct stop for them. A blue montage illustrates how difficult it is to find an emotion one does not possess. Kim So-lim narrows his eyes, realizing the challenge is even harder in their current panic. The blazing headlights of the train slice through a crimson-lit, tense atmosphere. Kim So-lim extends a helping hand to lift the blinded recruit off the floor. The recruits walk toward the exit, expressing deep gratitude for Kim So-lim's guidance. Kim So-lim steels his resolve, knowing he must lead them forward without turning back. A bloody background frames the hopeful thought of everyone safely escaping the nightmare. A dim corridor heavily splattered with blood awaits the passengers outside the train doors. The recruits freeze in sheer horror as they look out onto the platform. The chibi recruits shriek in terror at the sight of a massive wall of blood. Kim So-lim clenches his fist in silent panic, desperately wondering how to convince them to step out. Go Young-un suddenly steps forward and boldly raises her hand, urging everyone to disembark. Go Young-un points out Kim So-lim's unshakable composure as proof of his reliable judgment. A dark flashback shows Baek Sahan contrasting his selfishness with Kim So-lim's perceived altruism. Go Young-un declares she would much rather trust a genuinely kind person's guidance. Go Young-un takes a brave, decisive first step out onto the bloody platform. She runs ahead, loudly calling for everyone still inside the train to follow her. Her voice echoes from the darkness, calling the passengers to join her on the platform. Kim So-lim stands completely stunned as the blinded recruit addresses him warmly. The injured man smiles, expressing his absolute belief in Kim So-lim's leadership. Kim So-lim panics internally, sweating as the recruit tells him to go ahead without waiting. Kim So-lim guides the group out, telling them to focus only on going upward. Their boots step firmly onto the blood-slick platform, marking their collective descent into the unknown. The presenter loudly congratulates the survivors, leaving Kim So-lim completely stunned by the sudden announcement. A tense, cold sweat runs down Kim So-lim's face as he processes the unexpected situation. The recruits count themselves one by one in suspense, with Baek Sahan touching his bandage. Go Young-un joyfully completes the head count, ecstatically shouting that they have successfully made it out. Relief washes over the surviving recruits as they celebrate escaping their nightmare carriage alive together. The enthusiastic host announces that 22 recruits successfully completed their probation, calling it an incredible record. The host jokingly attributes their survival to either balanced difficulties or their own elite status. The presenter muses aloud about how the Human Resources Department will react to these results. The presenter proposes selecting the top elite, while So-lim notes the crowd's total lack of reaction. A bright spotlight dramatically illuminates Kim So-lim as he's officially declared the top recruit. The presenter commends So-lim's quick initiative while So-lim anxiously realizes which department they are entering. The presenter hands So-lim a corporate gift bag, though So-lim finds no joy in receiving it. With a sudden sharp zip, So-lim quickly pulls the strings of his gift bag open. The presenter instructs So-lim to inspect the contents, leaving the young man frozen in sudden shock. So-lim gapes in confusion as the host eagerly calls Baek Sahan up as the next recruit. The presenter continues calling names, prompting a nervous female recruit to anxiously await her turn. Another recruit holds his gift bag with a creepy, exhausted smile plastered across his face. So-lim deduces that the passengers were trapped in different timelines within the urban legend. Looking at Baek Sahan, So-lim assumes his companion will seek medical help on his own later. The presenter cheerfully asks if everyone has received their company gifts before concluding the ceremony. The Grant System announcement officially welcomes the survivors to the field investigation team of Daydream Incorporated. The recruits sit quietly in the grand hall as confetti drifts through the dim air. The host suddenly halts the proceedings, reminding everyone that not all survivors contributed equally. The host singles out a trembling recruit who was carried through the challenge by others. Grinning maniacally, the host declares their commitment to hunting down and eliminating every single freeloader. Static distortion begins wrapping around the recruits as the hostile environment claims its first victims. Colorful, glitchy static sweeps across the seating rows, dissolving the terrified recruits into nothingness. Kim So-lim watches in silent horror as the pixelated anomaly begins creeping up his own cheek. A cold system notification addresses the 13 remaining new hires left in the empty auditorium. Terrified survivors gasp in horror as a message welcomes them to their outstanding new careers. The floating announcement confirms that they have officially earned their permanent full-time employment positions. Terrified by the deadly corporate environment, Go Young-un desperately raises her hand to resign immediately. Read the text. Surprised, the host urges Go Young-un to listen to the lucrative benefits package before quitting. Go Young-un cautiously asks if she can still leave safely, and the host reassures her completely. Creepily grinning, the presenter suggests that she might change her mind once she hears the benefits. So-lim warily recognizes that the company is transitioning from violent threats to appealing enticements. A large presentation screen flashes to introduce the company's highly anticipated flagship employee benefit. A beautiful glass bottle glows intensely, filled with swirling starlit blue and purple liquid. A playful red cartoon cat illustration issues a warning that freeloaders will inevitably be caught. The host boasts about their pharmaceutical dominance, citing hair loss medication as technological proof. Snapping his fingers, the presenter hypes up a highly exclusive special drug they have developed. The presentation introduces the wish ticket, a miraculous drug capable of fulfilling any desire without exception. The host decides to demonstrate its power, presenting his own newly received wish ticket. The remaining recruits whisper to each other in deep suspicion, doubting the reality of the miracle. Drinking the glowing potion, the host dramatically transforms into a radiantly handsome, younger version of himself. The stunned survivors watch in complete disbelief as the drug successfully turns back time. The screen highlights how the field investigation team consistently receives the highest performance evaluations. The presenter explains that their dangerous department earns these coveted wish tickets at double the speed. Solium skeptically sees through the deceptive pitch, noting the massive list of deceased field recruits. Ominous text warns that their department suffers far more deaths in the line of duty. Kim Solom believes that the company's unbelievable pharmaceutical claims are actually not a scam. The shocked recruits process the reality that some employees have successfully obtained the wish tickets. An uneasy, heavy silence settles over the hall as the survivors contemplate their choices. A long-haired recruit raises his hand to ask if deceased people can be revived. The long-haired recruit looks down with a deeply troubled and sorrowful expression. The host dramatically rejects the question before preparing to reveal an even greater secret. A central announcement focuses entirely on the mystical power possessed by the wish tickets. Yunglin and Bak Sahan stare ahead in sheer speechless shock at the host's revelation. The host prompts them to make their choice as the grand exit doors swing open. The host instructs those staying to wear the mask from their bag, letting others resign. Kim Solom looks down curiously as a bright light shines from his corporate gift bag. Kim Solom reaches into the bag, reflecting deeply on finally receiving the specialized company mask. A small name card falls from the black mask as Kim Solium pulls it out. Kim Solom examines the mysterious name card, realizing its importance and pockets it for later. Kim Solom holds the sleek, dark mask in his hand, preparing for the next step. A secure database entry explains that field exploration team members must wear unique themed masks. The text confirms that these specialized masks serve as the official symbol of the team. Kim Solom secretly fantasizes about quitting and running away, but remains seated in silence. He acknowledges that the world outside is plagued by deadly phenomena he cannot survive alone. Rather than living as a helpless extra, he resolves to earn a ticket to escape. Baek-sahan puts on his mask while Go Young-gun prepares to do the same. Solium raises the mask to his face, noting that absolutely no one is running away. The system's text reveals that each mask transforms uniquely based on the user's individuality. A dark wooden growth sprouts from Kim Solium's mask as the custom transformation begins. Kim Solium's mask successfully transforms, sporting a majestic and intimidating set of dark antlers. Go Young-gun gazes at Kim Solium's antlers, wondering if everyone's mask looks like this. Go Young-gun happily reveals her white mask, which is transformed to resemble a mountain goat. A grand screen officially confirms their employment, marking the end of their horrifying probation. The 4 newly hired recruits stand together, each wearing their newly customized animal masks. A glowing floating notepad appears to announce that new exclusive goods have been unlocked. Kim Solium looks at the floating notification in confusion, processing the unlocked goods offer. Kim Solom decides to check the unlocked goods privately later to avoid drawing attention. As the host introduces miscellaneous employee benefits, Kim Solium suddenly hesitates with a realization. Floating in a mental galaxy, the recruit suddenly wonders if he even has a home. Go Young-gun approaches with a cheerful smile, greeting Kim Solium warmly in the bright hallway. Kim Solium turns back and responds with a calm, polite greeting at the elevator. Go Young-gun notes that Solium also accepted the company's housing offer, which he quietly confirms. Kim Solium looks at his phone, realizing his old records and family contacts are completely gone. In a brief funny moment, Baek-sahan awkwardly holds his wallet over his bandaged eye. Kim Solom recalls the housing benefit, resolving to make the most of what was offered. He mentally summarizes how he ultimately ended up accepting the company's free employee housing. Solom skeptically recalls the host's sweet-talking pitch about the prime location of the housing. Go Young-gun happily reveals that 7 out of 13 survivors accepted the free housing. They agree that despite the danger, free housing is simply too financially practical to refuse. The elevator dings as they arrive on the 12th floor of the surprisingly decent building. Solom arrives at room 1206, cynically suspecting the company just wants to overwork them. Upon opening the door, Solium spots his new roommate quietly sitting at the kitchen table. Solom makes eye contact with the roommate, instantly recognizing the familiar eye-patched young man. Kim Solom stands completely frozen as he realizes his new roommate is indeed Baek-sahan. Heavy, painfully awkward silence immediately fills the room as the two rivals stare. Kim Solom notes that the company has already treated Baek-sahan's injured eye. Resolving to ignore Baek-sahan, Kim Solom walks away but is suddenly stopped by him. Kim Solom halts in his tracks as he is called from behind. Kim Sol-ilum turns back with a bone-chilling glare, startling and nervous Baek-sahan. Baek-sahan demands to know if Solium enjoyed watching his eye get gouged out. Kim Solom silently steps closer to the seated Baek-sahan, looming over him threateningly. Slamming his foot down aggressively, Kim Solium tauntingly confirms that he thoroughly enjoyed it. Kim Solium flashes a terrifying, sadistic grin, asserting that the suffering was fun. Relishing a new dopamine rush, Kim Solium mockingly hopes they get to work together. Kim Solom hints at wanting to witness Sahyan's torment again, leaving Sahyan utterly horrified. He clenches his fist in quiet satisfaction after witnessing such rare, thrilling entertainment. Smiling warmly, Kim Solium casually remarks that Sehun will make office life highly amusing. Turning on his heel, Kim Solium quickly walks away from the stunned young man. Kim Solium is pleased, confident his unhinged performance successfully painted him as a lunatic. Fantasy card profile labels Baek Sehun an entitled narcissist who requires strong bluffs. Kim Solium lies down in his room reflecting on the clean, spacious accommodations. The company housing offers remarkable perks, including private bathrooms, weekly cleaning, and welcome gifts. Kim Solium is left deeply stunned by the luxurious employee housing provided to him. He skeptically deduces that the lavish benefits are meant to keep recruits from bailing. Among his office supplies, a slick black company diary catches Kim Solium's eye. Opening the diary, Kim Solium is startled by a desperate scribbled warning to run. He quickly snaps the diary shut, refusing to let the eerie message disturb him. A sudden, glowing notification notepad floats above Kim Solium's head, startling him. The floating screen unlocks a mysterious packet of yellow smiley face stickers for him. The unlocked reward is a standard bright yellow sheet of smiley face stickers. Archival records reveal that the overpowered sticker item was officially deleted by developers. Solium secretly pockets the packet, realizing he holds the only existing copy of this banned item. The logs confirm the item became usable once he attained full-time employee status. Overwhelmed by the stressful, fast-paced situation, Kim Solium sighs in deep mental exhaustion. Night falls over the apartment complex, bringing a brief, quiet stillness to his bedroom. Preparing his bed, Kim Solium quietly braces himself for the upcoming work week. Closing his eyes, he attempts to rest after an incredibly chaotic and surreal day. Sleep is instantly plagued by turbulent nightmares of the deadly corporate trials he survived. Tormented by horrific visions, he tosses and turns restlessly throughout the agonizing night. Morning arrives as bright sunlight shines upon the towering Daydream Incorporated headquarters. Outside the entrance, Go Young-un stands waiting with a deeply anxious and worried expression. Startled by Kim Solium's dead-eyed, exhausted appearance, Go Young-un asks if he slept well. Solium downplays his condition, though he suffered from relentless nightmares over the entire weekend. They board the elevator together, wishing each other luck before arriving at their floors. Kim Solium stares warily at the floor 13 marker, feeling a sense of foreboding. He checks his squad assignment tablet, confirming he is in D squad while Sehun is in F squad. The sliding door opens, revealing a blue-haired woman and a sandy blonde-haired man. The sandy blonde-haired man smiles brightly, welcoming Kim Solium as he enters the office. Kim Solium bows politely while his enthusiastic supervisor warmly welcomes him to the team. He meets D squad supervisor Park Min-song and assistant manager Eun Ha-jae, a blue-haired woman. Eun Ha-jae grimly warns them they are nicknamed the Death Squad because newbies always die. Her serious demeanor cracks as she playfully admits she was just kidding about the nickname. Exhausted and traumatized, Kim Solium wishes he could quit, but knows escape is impossible. An advertisement highlights a shocking deal for the company's weekly routine cleaning service. The final notice confirms the excellent corporate benefits provided to Daydream Inc. employees. The department welcomes Kim Solium, who finds their bluntness about the deadly entrance test highly unsettling. The blue-haired assistant manager Eun Ha-jae welcomes Kim Solium to Team D with a smug smile. The sandy blonde-haired supervisor Park Min-song introduces himself to Solium with a warm, friendly smile. Solium introduces himself formally, but the senior staff advises him to drop the stiff corporate formalities. Eun Ha-jae casually mentions the high survival risk, causing Park Min-song to panic in chibi form. Solium reasons that quitting is useless because paranormal anomalies plague every normal job in this world. Min-song and Eun Ha-jae praise Solium as the top scorer, though he humbly downplays his achievement. Min-song invites Solium to make himself comfortable since the team leader is currently deployed. A sudden burst of static erupts as the retro office radio inexplicably turns itself on. The radio forecasts sunny weather while outdoors drivers furiously clash in a chaotic downpour. Solium warily listens to the radio broadcast, noting how completely it mismatches their reality. Min-song nervously prepares to explain the abnormal nature of the strange, self-activating radio broadcast. The office database classifies the bizarre radio program as an evenfall-ranked darkness entity. Min-song dramatically anticipates Solium's confusion over the classification, but the recruit remains totally unfazed. Min-song cheerfully hands over a training tablet containing essential information for newly hired team members. A corporate training video begins playing on the tablet, starting with a warning screen from Daydream Inc. Colorful retro-style text officially introduces the field investigation team's training video for new hires. Cartoon animal mascots cheerfully welcome the recruits to the company's elite field investigation team. The training video poses an introductory question about the corporate identity of Daydream Inc. Colorful graphics reveal that Daydream Inc. manufactures highly specialized, wish-granting magical medicines. The presentation explains how dangerous reality-warping urban legends are actively manifesting in the world. The video lists notorious urban legends, including elevator anomalies and the legendary Red Mask. The narration explains that Daydream Inc. manages these dangerous anomalies to harvest valuable dream essence. Refined dream essence is processed to manufacture supernatural medicines that grant miraculous wishes. The cartoon mascots explain that highly specialized field teams are tasked with gathering this vital essence. Dramatic cartoon animations celebrate the heroic exploits and bravery of the field investigation team. Cute chibi graphics depict field agents easily neutralizing and capturing dangerous supernatural urban legends. The training presentation concludes by defining the recruit's primary mission of collecting valuable dream essence. Solemn skeptically analyzes the sanitized terminology the corporation uses to mask their life-threatening duties. A stark transition screen warns that the true nature of Daydream Inc. is deeply sinister. The slides reveal that dream essence is directly extracted from terrifying hostile paranormal phenomena. Sufficient quantities of the refined substance yield transcendent elixirs capable of rewriting reality itself. The lucrative magical potions are primarily sold to wealthy elite politicians in the upper class. Solemn finishes watching the corporate presentation, politely describing the experience as highly memorable. Minsong reassures the anxious recruit that standardized company manuals exist to safely handle any anomaly. Minsong advises calling the paranormal entities darknesses to sound professional, which Selim finds deeply nerdy. Yoon-hajae steps forward, signaling that it is time to move on to practical training. Minsong maintains his bright demeanor while Eun-hajae looks on with a stern, serious expression. Minsong announces that Solemn will conduct a light darkness exploration mission this very afternoon. Eun-hajae hands over a specialized field device for his upcoming field assignment. A blueprint profile warns that losing the serialized Dream Essence collector carries severe consequences. Yoon-hajae requests to inspect Kim Soling's specialized custom field mask before they depart. Kim Solim presents his uniquely transformed mask, which has sprouted intricate dark wooden antlers. Both senior team members stare at the majestic antlered mask in absolute jaw-dropping shock. Minsong compares the intimidating mask to a tough roe deer to downplay their astonishment. Minsong instructs Solim to wear the specialized mask and examine the mission details on screen. Solemn is startled by a horrifying glitched image of a hostile ghost on the tablet. The file details a dangerous convenience store haunting that requires playing tag with a ghost. As Solemn reads, glitched dark shadows ominously begin to manifest directly behind his colleagues. Solemn freezes in terror as massive pitch-black static silhouettes suddenly tower over him. Sandy Blonde supervisor Park Min-song laughs brightly, advising the recruit to simply take it easy. Feeling incredibly overwhelmed, Kim Solim inwardly panics at the thought of a solo rookie field assignment. The tablet database reveals their target is a choice-based ghost story born from internet trends. Wearing his black antlered mask, Kim Solim stands quietly inside the eerie, dimly lit convenience store. Kim Solim warily notes that he has officially entered the haunted convenience store darkness. The silent convenience store sits enveloped in a cold, heavy atmosphere of dark mystery. A sharp tick sounds as the digital clock shifts to show midnight has officially passed. Faced with a terrifying ordeal, Selim decides on the only logical strategy for a coward. Solium reaches for the refrigerator glass, planning to gather water and survive for 3 days. Kim Solim freezes in absolute terror as his gaze locks onto something horrifyingly unexpected. Sweat drips down Solium's face as he realizes a horrifying face is hidden inside. The shocking truth becomes clear as a monstrous presence lurks directly within the refrigerator. A grotesque melting face with wide, bulging eyes looms directly in front of a petrified Solium. Blood-red splash sinisterly declares that the ghost has caught its prey. Solium gasps as cold terror washes over him, his glowing eyes wide with intense shock. Trembling in fear, Kim Solium desperately tries to catch his breath after the terrifying encounter. A sudden, sharp gasp breaks the silence as the reality of the situation hits home. A cruel rule of the choice-based game dictates that everything resets back to the start. The digital clock blinks back to midnight, signaling the start of a grueling loop. Sharp beep rings out as the timer resets back to midnight once again. Horrified by the endless loop, Solium angrily protests the impossible task of surviving 3 days. The rules clarify that getting caught results in being sent back to the starting point. An infinity symbol on the clock face represents the endless loop of terror awaiting him. Pacing the aisles, Solium resolves to find an alternative escape route before losing his mind. Seeking a safe spot, Solium decides to crawl onto the main checkout counter to think. A grotesque, slimy entity with giant veins and hollow eyes floats silently through the darkness. The monstrous creature slowly peeks under the counter, searching for any signs of life. Clenching his hand over his mouth, Solium holds his breath to avoid making any sound. The distorted face of the entity hovers dangerously close, scanning the dark convenience store. Long, wet black hair brushes past the counter as the creature slowly drifts away. Solemn warily reflects on horror cliches, bracing himself for a sudden cheap jump scare. Realizing the danger of light and movement, Solium decides against checking his mobile phone. Glitched files of past darkness exploration records flicker ominously across a digital space. Huddled in the shadows, Solium desperately tries to recall a crucial database anomaly he read. He remembers a rare case file where events progress differently from their scheduled timelines. He recalls a squad's exploration that anomalously lasted over 16 hours instead of 12. The files explain that ghost stories develop anomalies as multiple authors contribute to their war. The cumulative additions of various authors eventually compromise the original rules, spawning unpredictable anomalies. A bloody log details J Squad's grueling survival mission inside a haunted abandoned hospital. Solemn urges himself to remember the specific, unusual factor that triggered the hospital anomaly. He squeezes his eyes shut, trying to piece together the squad's critical operational mistake. A sudden realization hits him. The anomaly occurred because they missed a shift notice. The record shows an agent accidentally cut the front desk's telephone line during the mission. Without the proper signal, the loop continued and the morning sun refused to rise. Once the telephone line was restored, the multi-faced Dr. Monster received the call and vanished. This confirms that a specific trigger within the lore can prematurely end the loop. Solium deduces that activating the trigger ahead of schedule will force the loop to end. Multiple system notifications suddenly appear, declaring that employees are currently being summoned. A mysterious spectral figure in a dark suit begins to manifest through the glitching screens. System alerts repeatedly flash, confirming the immediate summoning of a terrifying corporate entity. Knowing the loop's rules, Solium mentally prepares himself as the computer starts summoning convenience store employees. Faced with a barrage of relentless employee summoning alerts, Solium realizes the entity is deliberately mocking his presence. Clenching his fist, Solium resolves to run and escape without giving in to despair. He calculates that ducking past the counter is his best chance to sneak away quietly. Sweat pours down his face as he braces himself to execute his stealthy escape plan. Near the counter, the grotesque, melting entity typing on the computer keyboard stands directly in his path. Gasping in pain, Solium runs desperately through the dark aisles, straining every muscle to flee. He realizes with absolute dread that surviving for 3 whole days is an impossible task. Solemn resolves to find the specific trigger to prematurely end the loop and escape this nightmare. He looks toward the locked automatic glass entrance doors of the dark convenience store. Looking at the digital clock set to midnight, he deduces that fast-forwarding time 3 days ahead will break the curse. He ponders how a convenience store is affected by 3 days, rejecting complicated restocking schedules for something simpler. Looking at a product label, a sudden flash of inspiration hits him regarding expiration dates. He recalls that expired food is immediately disposed of and searches for items dated 3 days later. He quickly finds a packaged hamburger steak meal set to expire exactly 3 days in the future. Solium carries the packaged food item toward the cash register counter with determination. The security monitor screen glitches, showing the horrifying phantom operator still lingering at the desk. He cautiously approaches the counter, finding the area momentarily empty and silent. Steeling his resolve despite his fear, he prepares to use the cash register's interface. Solemn stands at the terminal, planning to adjust the system's date and time settings 3 days forward. He reaches out his pale finger to press the confirmation key on the cash register keyboard. He desperately hopes his plan succeeds as he initiates the system configuration. Sweat drips down his face, his expression morphing into a tense smirk as a beep sounds from the machine. Prominent alert notification suddenly flashes across the screen, confirming a disposal warning. The POS terminal screen displays a message indicating that expired products have successfully been detected. A dark, shadowy figure with long hair begins to slowly emerge from the darkness behind him. The grotesque, crawling entity drags itself across the store floor directly toward the counter. Horrifying, distorted shrieks echo through the dark store as the creature draws closer. Solium urges himself to keep going and ignore the terrifying noises behind him. With trembling hands, he scans the packaged meal, a bright red laser light illuminating his face. The crawling monster begins to dissolve, its spectral form falling apart in the shadows. The screen prompts Solium to finalize the registration of the item for disposal. He presses the final key on the terminal to execute the disposal command. The wet, melting hand of the entity desperately reaches out one last time before dissolving completely. The screen confirms that the product's disposal has been successfully registered, banishing the phantom. A bright, blinding flash of white light suddenly erupts, completely enveloping the convenience store. A printed receipt spits out of the register machine, signifying the successful completion of the transaction. Breathing heavily, Solium removes his mask, sweating from the sheer intensity of the terrifying loop. Relieved to see light again, he reflects on how essential illumination is to keep one's sanity. He expects to find an escape route, but is suddenly startled by a loud sound. The cash register drawer suddenly pops open, revealing stacks of 50,001 bills. Solium is utterly baffled as a stylized display depicts the monster playfully firing a money gun. The scene shifts to the exterior of the Daydream Inc. building under a cloudy sky. Outside, blue-haired Yoon Ha-jae stretches tiredly while complaining about reports to her sandy blonde colleague Min-song. Min-song is suddenly interrupted as his handheld tablet begins to buzz loudly. With the sudden crackle of light, Solium suddenly teleports back, landing heavily on the ground. Min-song and Ha-jae turn around in absolute stunned silence as the rookie suddenly reappears. Min-song stammeringly notes that Solium has already completed the mission and brought back the essence. Solium calmly holds up the filled glowing container, revealing his record survival time of under 2 hours. A cigarette lighter sparks as a flashback reveals they had just sent him in an hour ago. Blue-haired Ha-jae exhales a slow puff of smoke under a gloomy, overcast sky. The narration notes that the D-Squad newbie is currently facing a ghost story alone. Haja reflects that a 3-day ghost story is relatively easy and that Solium will survive since there is food. The narration reveals that throwing a newcomer into darkness is a signature D-Squad initiation. The narration explains that many newbies quit during initiation, drawing disapproval from the HR executive. The narration explains the initiation filters out those who cannot handle the job's dangers. The brutal initiation is meant to weed them out before they actually lose their lives. The seniors watch the city, reflecting that they never want to see a new member die. Looking at a photo of Solium, they discuss the top-performing newcomer's bizarrely calm nature. Min-song observes that the antler-masked Solium is incredibly calm, almost to a bizarre extent. Min-sing notes that unlike other terrified newcomers, Solium showed absolutely no surprise, proving his strong mentality. Min-song notes Haja already likes the rookie, and she replies she always welcomes nerves of steel. Haja reasons that their department constantly faces urban legends, meaning a coward would never have survived probation. A dramatic flashback humorously reveals Solium running in terror as the coward who actually passed. The Chibi seniors nod in agreement, thinking the new rookie is actually pretty decent. Haja remembers that Solium did not take notes, assuming he simply did not know any better. Haja resolves to teach Solium about note-taking since lives are on the line, which Min-song approves. A dramatic reveal shows Solium's custom pop socket, proving he already knew everything in advance. Min-song expects Solium to emerge in 3 days, suggesting they finish paperwork in the meantime. Min-song's thoughts are cut off as his tablet suddenly begins vibrating with high intensity. Blinding light suddenly erupts from the tablet screen, catching Min-song completely off guard. The tablet comically spits out a giant mouth, splashing a dazed Solium onto the floor. Solium calmly announces he has filled the container, leaving the seniors completely dumbfounded by his return. The seniors stare in disbelief that a rookie cleared a 3-day ghost story in under an hour. An exhausted sigh breaks the silence as the reality of Solium's impossible feat sinks in. Internally, a terrified Soletum shivers, thinking he almost had a heart attack from the ordeal. Min-song points out that the convenience store was supposed to be a 3-day ghost story. Min-song asks how he escaped before 3 days passed, to which Solium begins to explain. Solium nonchalantly claims he simply sped up time, a casual attitude that completely shocks his seniors. Solium explains his logic of triggering the 3-day expiration date event early to end the loop. Min-song and Haja mentally scream that this new recruit is an absolute field exploration genius. A mock advertisement presents Solium as a master graduate, declaring ghost stories are incredibly easy. The seniors resolve to make Solium adapt well, determined never to let such a rare genius escape. Min-song begs Solium not to forget him, predicting the rookie will soon outrank him as assistant manager. Solium hesitatingly begins to confess that his quick escape was actually driven by a different reason. With a grim expression, Solium admits he only escaped so quickly because he was absolutely terrified. Solium requests that his seniors please give him a warning before throwing him into danger again. Min-song remains skeptical about Solium claiming he almost died, given that he cleared it in an hour. Haja smirks and asks Solium how much money he received, catching him off guard. Haja explains clearing the story rewards money, prompting Solium to admit he received 10 million won. Haja pats his shoulder and tells him he gets to keep the entire reward money. Haja explains that while the company usually takes half, Solium can keep it all for his hard work. As Haja encourages him, Solium's conscience sweats, knowing the actual reward was 20 million won. Haja announces it is time for the most important task, leaving a dazed Solium wondering what they mean. The speech bubble excitedly reveals they are referring to earning points for the employee welfare mole. Solium stares blankly at the computer terminal, still trying to understand how the system works. Clicking the mouse, Solium decides to check what items are available for purchase with his points. Solium scans the surprisingly high-quality welfare products list, finding them much better than expected. A sudden realization prompts him to check the price of the mysterious Wish ticket. Solium is utterly shocked to see the Wish ticket costs an astronomical 500,000 points. He calculates that solo F-rank runs would take 15 years, considering higher ranks instead. He calculates that splitting a B-rank run 3 ways requires clearing 150 runs. A toy display depicts a terrified chibi employee facing a saw-wielding figure in a simulation. Colleague Min-song speaks with a warm smile as a dazed black-haired Solium briefly responds. Solium asks about the cluttered desk items, prompting Min-song's casual explanation. Solium discovers that the workspace actually belongs to their squad leader instead. Min-song warns Solium not to break the squad leader's computer monitor while working. Min-song invites him for a quick smoke, but Solium politely declines to stay. Solium is left alone, realizing he needs a solid plan to survive this workplace. He notes that slightly bending the rules here shouldn't be too bad after all. A pink sticky note reveals the squad leader's login ID and password credentials. Shalam starts typing on the keyboard, planning to log into the company welfare mall. He reasons that capitalizing the first password letter will successfully bypass login security. Solium celebrates with a quiet fist pump as the login successfully goes through. Narration introduces the exclusive Alien Shop advertisement reserved for high-ranking company officials. Narration explains that extraterrestrials planted an illegal phishing link to target company employees. He realizes clicking anything in the welfare mall will redirect him to the shop. A flashy green banner offers strength upgrades and items for a special anniversary discount. Despite the incredible offers, Solium finds the bright banner's design completely cheap and lame. A colorful guide manual details how the company claims profit splits from newborn employees. An informational page details the squad leader's white frog-like doll, which was a gift. Narration reveals that the exclusive advertisement is actually promotional ransomware hidden on the network. Clicking the shoddy green banner will immediately forward the user to their main site. Solium decides to screenshot the address to securely connect later from his home computer. The series title is displayed against a starry galaxy background with a pixel UFO. Solium relaxes in his desk chair at home, looking at his smartphone with curiosity. He enters the secret shop web address he photographed earlier on his mobile phone. His mobile screen instantly glitches with distorted red lines as the connection initiates. Highly corrupted alien text and distorted color patterns display across his mobile web browser. Pixelated letters and colored distortion patterns stream down a screen in a glitchy mess. The interface finally loads, introducing the colorful space shopping mall with pixel art stars. Solium is immediately underwhelmed, muttering that the design is once again incredibly lame. Solium grumbles about the clunky interface, noting it isn't even optimized for mobile phones. Solium taps the pixelated button to proceed and view the list of items. The catalog displays 5 bizarre outer space items with extremely high price tags. Flashing screen declares that the items sold on the site are absolutely bizarre. Solium is excited to recognize over half of the items listed on the page. He recognizes the cutlery, walkie-talkie, and picnic set but skips the overpriced buttons. He zeroes in on his target, deciding that this is the perfect purchase. The screen flashes with a rainbow notification confirming his purchase is currently being shipped. Solium is caught off guard as a sudden beeping sound startles him from above. A digital countdown timer of 3 seconds rapidly counts down on his phone screen. 2 large cardboard boxes suddenly fall directly into Solium's hands, leaving him utterly stunned. He stares blankly at the boxes labeled Space Shopping Mall, completely amazed by the delivery. An illustration depicts a rocket ship blast-off, emphasizing the literal speed of their shipping. He marvels at this universe, finding it absolutely fascinating rather than terrifying for once. He unboxes his purchases, revealing a rustic metal lunchbox and a silver snake coin. Picnic set drinks double item effects temporarily, while the red cookies half them. He inspects the silver coin, pleased to have bought it at a steep discount. A sparkly bubble reveals Solium's deep satisfaction, knowing this purchase is a solid investment. In this universe, Ghost Story currencies can be exchanged for real cash later through specific organizations. Solium prays earnestly before a rising market chart, hoping his investment pays off someday. Solium dismisses the atoms because he cannot find any practical use for them. The blood-sucking cutlery is a weapon for fighting ghosts, raising questions about his scary fate. Solium wonders if blood-sucking even works on ghosts while a doctor extracts a ghost's essence. Solium struggles to explain his purchased walkie-talkie to Hodge, hiding that he used his superior's credentials. A game notification confirms Solium has successfully obtained the Alice Picnic set and Silver Serpent coin. Solium stands silently with crossed arms, lost in thought as he contemplates his purchases. A system notification cheerfully declares that Solium has thoroughly enjoyed his shopping experience. The purchases come with a drawback as fictional ghosts arrive to haunt him in bed. The scene shifts to a skyscraper rooftop as they prepare to enter a new territory. Minsong reassures Solem that the D-rank story is harmless, though Solem remembers his orientation with dread. His colleagues encourage him to prepare for the mission, while Solium reluctantly agrees to proceed. Minsong hands Solem the quiz show manual, warning him of the penalty for wrong answers. Solium reasons that everything will be fine as long as he knows the answers. Minsong offers a paper copy, but Solium politely declines as he does not need it. Hajae and Minsong stare in absolute shock when Solium casually claims he has memorized everything. Minsong finally understands why Solium did not take notes, leaving Solium utterly confused by his reaction. Minsong and Hajae praise their genius new recruit, leaving Solium completely clueless about their high expectations. Solium expects to meet the squad leader soon, but his expectations are quickly cut short. Hodge learns over the phone that the squad leader is still stuck on a field assignment. Hajae angrily reports that they must enter the ghost story with just the 3 of them. Hajae explains they need to meet their end-of-the-month performance quota, which Minsong immediately understands. Hajae asks if Solium memorized the answers, while Solium silently hopes he can escape by lying. Minsong confidently assures Hajae of Solium's memory, leaving a panicked Solium realizing he is completely screwed. Hajae confidently drapes her jacket over her shoulders, preparing herself for the upcoming mission. Solium reluctantly agrees while his conscience regrets taking the 20 million won reward money from before. Solium worries because he has never read about this specific quiz show in his records. He walks through a database room as screens confirm no documents match a search. Solium explains that entering the ghost story requires writing his name on the vintage envelope. He pens his alias Roe Deer on the paper, joining Badger and Peregrine Falcon to enter. The paper slips fall into a dark, glitchy void as the transition to the show begins. The vintage postcard narrates how writing one's name as a joke initiates the strange quiz show. Bright stage spotlight suddenly ignites, casting a brilliant golden glow over the dark Vanny. Bright lights illuminate the grand stage of the Tuesday quiz show as a hand reaches forward. The stage features a band setup, filling the air with sophisticated musical sounds. Contestants stand at their podiums in masks, ready to connect with their audience. A loud, simple crash echoes as the host demands a round of applause right now. A massive banner dramatically welcomes everyone to the start of the Tuesday quiz show. The bizarre host appears wearing a brown suit and a television monitor for a head. The crowd erupts in thunderous applause and cheers as the show officially begins. A colorful bonus advertisement promotes Alien Mart's fast 3-minute immediate delivery service. Television-headed host enthusiastically greets all the participants gathered on the stage. The host welcomes Roe Deer, reminding him to keep a bright smile during the broadcast. The screen fills with smiley faces as Salim internally panics at the TV-headed host. Salim watches in disbelief as the TV host commands the cameras to stand by. The tension builds as the spotlight shines dramatically down on the quiz show stage. The host dramatically addresses the contestants, explaining that their applause is the key. The TV host gleefully explains that the audience's applause is the very reason this show exists. Clapping politely, Salim feels relieved that the show isn't scary enough to make him faint. Salim thinks that viewing the bizarre TV-headed entity as a simple show host makes the experience feel much less terrifying. He finds comfort in the ordinary old-school American talk show set design of the mysterious venue. Wearing his horned mask, the nervous Salim prepares himself for the upcoming trial ahead. He reasons that everything will be fine as long as he knows the answers to the quiz show. A single drop of sweat drips down his chin as the silent tension rises. An ominous feeling settles over the stage as the true nature of the trial begins. The TV-headed host enthusiastically raises his gloved hand, announcing the immediate start of the broadcast. A vintage digital countdown timer ignites, flashing a bold number 3 on the screen. As the countdown hits 2, his masked colleagues stand ready at their podiums with confident smiles. Sweat pours down Salim's face as the high-pressure countdown finally reaches the final number 1. A Stark system notification displays the official records of those who successfully survived the show. Blood-splattered film strip scrolls past, hinting at a hidden history of tragedy. A clapperboard snaps shut, revealing that this supernatural disaster originally began within a talk show. On a grainy retro monitor, the TV-headed host enthusiastically greets his viewers to the live broadcast. The host explains that while the talk show has different themes for each day, it is only possible to enter on one specific day. The host proudly introduces the 2 veteran participants, highlighting them as the lovely new faces of today. Information logs revealed that past exploration teams safely cleared 99 consecutive runs using standard study guides. Highly distorted notification warns that a sudden anomaly triggered during the 100th attempt. A dramatic spotlight sweeps across the stage to officially introduce the contestants to the viewers. The host calls out Badger's name, drawing a bright spotlight onto his confident masked face. The spotlight shifts to the purple-haired girl, Peregrine Falcon, who stands calmly at her podium. With dramatic flair, the host calls out the name of the final contestant, Roe Deer. The cheerful host winks his cartoon screen eye, inviting the live audience to stay tuned. A grand title card marks the official commencement of the show's 110th broadcast. Confetti falls over Salim as he stands in stunned silence at his glowing contestant podium. He realizes with sudden shock that this current broadcast is only the 99th exploration. His eyes widen in sheer horror as the terrifying realization of the missing count hits. Sensing something unusual, Peregrine Falcon casts a sharp, observant glance over her shoulder. Unaware of the danger, the 2 veteran colleagues nod confidently, feeling entirely prepared. Clenching his fist, Salim resolves to keep his guard up despite his seniors' relaxed attitudes. A strict set of warning rules dictates that any disruptive behavior will result in instant incineration. A glowing television screen displays the calm, ready expressions of the 2 masked veterans. The host's television screen glows red as he warns that any disruption means instant death. Noticing his stiff posture, the host asks if he is okay, to which Salim admits his first-time nerves. The host laughs off his anxiety, pointing to his static-filled screen to begin the first round. First question appears, asking Salim to select which listed element does not belong in humans. The TV-headed host flashes a thumbs up and celebrates as a loud, correct buzzer sounds. The host praises Badger's swift and accurate response, prompting a confident smile from the veteran. The host expresses surprise as Peregrine Falcon easily secures her own correct answer right after. The host dramatizes the tension, pointing out that Roe Deer is visibly struggling to make his choice. Sweating profusely under pressure, Salim mutters his choice of option number 3, hoping for safety. The host confirms his success, though Salim internally notes how ridiculously obvious the answer actually was. The quiz rapidly proceeds through successive rounds with continuous correct answers, keeping him on edge. A massive screen displays their near-perfect success rate as the host introduces the final round. The host stretches his hand towards Salim, building immense suspense for the final question. The host asks if he is ready, and Salim gives a tense but firm confirmation. The dramatic announcement screen transitions the game directly to the very last quiz question. The final question appears, asking them to identify the lethal percentage of human blood loss. Taking a deep breath, the highly focused Salim steps forward to deliver his final answer. Salim boldly claims that all 4 options are correct, leaving the TV-headed host completely stunned. Deer firmly declares that all of the listed options are correct. The explanation details how losing 30 to 40% of blood is lethal to humans. The television-headed host expresses dramatic surprise at Deer's bold claim of multiple correct answers. Offered a chance to change his answer, Deer resolutely declines the option. Listening intently to the explanation, the television-headed host acknowledges the participant's reasoning. Solium is shocked when the host reveals that option 1 was the intended correct answer. The host points out that Deer's creative answer is far more impressive. The television-headed host awards Deer a perfect score for his brilliant answer. A dramatic announcement declares the end of this episode of the Tuesday Quiz Show. His colleagues quietly discuss the ending while a backstage warning about proper etiquette appears. The text box reveals that only one participant can be crowned the MVP. Solium stands stunned in the spotlight as he is crowned the show's 99th MVP. Solium receives a prize box from the host, deeply confused by his sudden victory. Sweating under his horned mask, Solium is immensely relieved that the nightmare is finally over. The host bids farewell to the audience just as a sudden digital distortion corrupts the screen. Colorful static lines glitch across the faces of the 3 bewildered contestants. A sudden sharp clack echoes as a spotlight shines down on an empty contestant podium. Another loud click sounds as the camera reveals the podium belonging to participant Zebra. 3 terrified newcomers stand at their podiums, sweating profusely under the intense stage lights. Badger and Peregrine Falcon stare in complete shock at the unexpected arrival of the newcomers. Confusion sweeps across the stage as everyone tries to comprehend what is happening. Retro countdown timer suddenly flashes the number 10 on the screen. The high-pressure countdown rapidly ticks down to the single digit of 1. Horror grips Solium as the timer reaches 00 right before his eyes. Bonus strip humorously contrasts Solium's simple survival goal with the host's rapid quiz pace. The 3 newcomers look down in tense silence as the word field flashes below. A sudden realization occurs that these newcomers might actually be exploration team staff members. Solium panics over their presence in the story while a newcomer cries out in confusion. He questions why the previous team members are still here in this D-ranked zone. A brutal warning states that anyone interfering with the live broadcast will be incinerated. A roaring pillar of fire suddenly erupts, completely engulfing the Zebra contestant podium. Peregrine Falcon watches in absolute horror as the bright flames reflect in her eyes. A colorful stage graphic cheerfully flashes a surprise announcement onto the screen. The bizarre host joyfully spins the horrifying incident as a sneak preview for next week. Solium stares in stunned silence at the smoldering pile of ash left behind. The red recording light of a studio camera glows ominously in the darkness. A chilling notification reminds everyone that the recording cameras are still actively rolling. The lens of the studio camera remains focused, capturing every single terrifying detail. A warning about proper show respect leaves a sweat-drenched Solium swearing in absolute panic. Forcing a strained smile, Solium waves to the camera and encourages viewers to look forward to next week. Confetti drifts down from above as the show officially concludes its broadcast for today. The credits roll on screen, listing the participants alongside a creepy invitation to the viewers. The television host's screen displays a cheerful farewell message to the departing audience. A brilliant flash of white light signals the transition out of the ghost story. The host breathes a heavy sigh of relief, glad that the broadcast was saved. A quiet sweeping sound fills the studio as a staff member sweeps away the black ashes. Host offers Deer a permanent role, but Solium politely declines due to his current job. The host notes that the newly arrived participants must be deeply shocked by everything. The host reassures the newcomers before being suddenly interrupted by a whispered message. The host's television screen droops into a sad, disappointed face upon hearing the news. The TV-headed host hesitantly announces that he has some rather difficult news to share. A shocking announcement reveals that the Tuesday Quiz Show has officially been canceled. Solium reacts in sheer disbelief as the host explains that only the quiz segment is being replaced. The host quickly reassures the remaining participants that this change does not mean their journey is over. The host explains that they are all still invited to participate in the newly designed segment. Solium grows deeply anxious as the system displays the documentation for their 100th exploration attempt. Formal record explains how 99 consecutive wins forced a disciplinary change to the show's format. A crimson document drifts down, hinting that the pre-recorded format might actually make survival simpler. The host happily promises to do his best in a supporting role, but a sudden thought interrupts him. Peregrine Falcon flatly refuses to continue, declaring that she is leaving now that her show is over. The host's screen glows menacingly red as he points out that filming has not yet concluded. The host warns her about the severe consequences of backing out midway through the live broadcast. A chilling question appears on screen asking if she is truly unable to join the show. A defiant and resounding refusal flashes on the screen in stark, bold lettering. Peregrine Falcon admits she had no idea the filming would be a continuous, non-stop process. Solium steps in to de-escalate the tension, secretly searching for a way to stop the broadcast. While the host suggests wrapping up, Solium frantically brainstorms an excuse to escape the studio. A crew member suddenly holds up a sign confirming that all preparations for the show are complete. The host cheerfully orders everyone back to their seats, declaring that the show must go on. An intense, blinding spotlight flares to life as Solium silently curses the host's relentless pacing. The familiar, high-pressure digital countdown begins ticking down to initiate the next broadcast. The host enthusiastically welcomes the viewers, hyping up the joy and excitement of Tuesday's broadcast. A vibrant title graphic announces that the audience is now watching the show's brand new segment. The host urges the audience not to worry, promising a highly advanced version of the quiz. A solemn title card suggests that melody is the ultimate tool to truly move the human heart. Badger, Peregrine, Falcon, and Selim sweat in absolute dread as the host praises the human voice. The host begins to unveil the name of this newly designed segment to the contestants. The segment is revealed as the Tuesday Choir, accompanied by a horrifying, blood-weeping pig conductor. The host eagerly prepares to introduce the special guest invited to lead this new segment. The host introduces the weeping, pig-headed guest as the terrifying conductor of the Purgatory Choir. The dramatic introduction falls flat as the giant pig stands completely silent, leaving the host bewildered. Realizing the delay, the host quickly announces that the conductor's performance equipment is on its way. A mysterious silver plate begins descending from the dimly lit television studio. The empty silver platter hovers silently, illuminated by an eerie, pale green luminescence. A series of identical silver stands lower all across the stage, creating a tense atmosphere. The newcomers watch in absolute terror as the host decides they will take the first turn. The host singling out Mr. Mole for the first question causes the newcomer to panic. First question asks Mr. Mole to identify which of the 4 listed options lives longest. Mr. Mole desperately shouts out option 2, and the host immediately confirms it is correct. Despite his correct answer, Mr. Mole is brutally decapitated as a massive geyser of blood erupts. Blood splashes onto the ornate platter as the first horrific component of the performance lands. The monstrous pig conductor hooks the decapitated head to prepare it for his bizarre instrument. The host celebrates as Mr. Mole's screaming severed head begins chanting its answer as music. The severed head's agonizing screams are translated into a twisted melodic refrain for the choir. A system log reveals how participants' severed heads are fused to plates to perform grotesque a cappella. Sion screams in absolute terror as her colleague's severed head continues to croon her name. Sion's eyes well with tears of pure horror as her friend's head sings to her. A roaring pillar of fire ignites as the host casually prepares to select the next participant. The host turns his attention to Mr. Jellyfish, who is paralyzed with fear. Crying hysterically, Mr. Jellyfish begs for standard punishment rather than facing a horrific decapitation. The television-headed host joyfully declares a contestant eliminated as the player is instantly vaporized. Mr. Badger and Peregrine Falcon look on in horror as the host fake mourns the loss. A grim narration details how an entire team has been wiped out within minutes. Kim Solium realizes both correct and incorrect answers on the show means certain death. Amidst glitching static monitors, Solium reflects on a critical fact he has been ignoring. Pixelated system files reveal the deceased newcomers were actually Solium's supervisors from Squad D. Solium recognizes his lost colleagues from the Darkness exploration records. The sinister television host eagerly prepares to call upon the next remaining contestants. The tense spotlight shifts onto a sweating and terrified Mr. Badger. System files highlight the host's D-rank status compared to the pig conductor's A rank. The relentless host demands that Mr. Badger step forward to answer the question. Foreboding thoughts linger over whether survival is entirely impossible in this twisted show. The gruesome sight of decapitated bodies underscores the horrific stakes of the trial. Solium braces himself under the harsh studio lighting, trying to find a way out. Imagining a noose tightening around his neck, Solium desperately resists giving in to despair. Clenching his phone, Solium commands himself to regain his focus and stay strong. A sharp spark of fierce determination flashes within Solium's focused eyes. Solium feels overwhelmed, comparing the trial's pressure to a colossal, crashing natural disaster. Holding his phone tightly, Solium reminds himself of his unique knowledge of the records. The host presses Mr. Badger to prepare himself for the incoming question. Sweating and utterly panicked, Mr. Badger hysterically screams out his answer. The host pauses as his screen displays a simple, silent face of curiosity. Forcing a strained grin, Mr. Badger nervously awaits the host's dangerous evaluation. Mr. Badger asks to speak before answering, which the cheerful host readily allows. Mr. Badger delivers a touching plea, hoping someone can check on his hospitalized family member. Deeply moved by the emotional story, the host's screen begins weeping actual tears. Peregrine Falcon grits her teeth in suspense as the host demands the final answer. Taking a massive gamble, Solium suddenly raises his hand to interrupt the broadcast. The host and Mr. Badger are stunned by Solium's sudden reckless interruption. Mr. Badger panics, fearing Solium will be incinerated for disrupting the host's flow. Solium feigns intense dizziness and politely asks if he can rest for a moment. 2 tiny smiley face stickers attached to the host screen begin to slowly drip. A subtle sound echoes as a white-gloved hand snaps its fingers in the dark. Displaying a pause icon, the host happily calls for a 30-minute break. Peregrine Falcon and Mr. Badger are astounded that Solium interrupted the host and survived. Solium sweats in immense relief knowing his desperate gamble successfully paid off. Solium realizes the pre-recorded broadcast format gave him the perfect loophole to exploit. System information shows the combined effect of smiley stickers and Alice Picnic canned drink. A glitch screen confirms that the combined item effect was highly successful. The host apologizes for his dizzy antenna, ordering staff to guide Solium to the waiting room. The host cheerfully requests that Solium bring him some water during the break. Solium forces a weak smile under his mask as he prepares to exit the stage. A formal studio graphic announces that recording will officially resume in 30 minutes. The digital countdown timer confirms that Solium has successfully bought 30 precious minutes. Solium leaves the stage, planning to utilize his time in the waiting room. Peregrine Falcon secretly hands Solium an item, whispering for him to check it alone. The door to the quiet waiting room stands shut under a beam of light. Solium sighs in exhaustion as he slumps against the wall inside the waiting room. Solium's anxiety rises, realizing 30 minutes is barely enough time to catch his breath. Looking at a golden key under a magnifying glass, Solium resolves to find a solution. Solium inspects the simple brown button that the assistant manager secretly slipped to him. Solium closely observes the button, wondering if it can be pressed to help him escape. Solium presses down on the small button, triggering a distinct clicking sound. A digital audio signal pattern ripples across the screen as a communication link connects. Solium, wearing his deer antlers and suit, stands in the dressing room awaiting a response. A white-haired man in tactical gear answers, identifying himself as Lee Jae-hyun. Silent, tense connection hums in the quiet waiting room. The show's title card flashes on screen, framed by rows of vintage studio light bulbs. Solium realizes the button is a communicator, while the system identifies the caller as Un Ha-jae. Solium urgently asks if he is speaking to the D-Squad leader, who confirms he is. Solium introduces himself as a new D-Squad employee and warns there is no time left. Solium delivers a shocking warning that the entire D-Squad will perish in 30 minutes. The squad leader calmly requests a 5-minute briefing regarding the dire situation. Solium explains to his leader that they will all face death once the recording break ends. Squad leader suggests delaying the show, but Solium replies that buying more time is impossible. Solium is deeply unsettled by how casually his squad leader accepts defeat in this crisis. Solium asks if buying 30 more minutes would change anything, and his leader confirms it would. The leader explains the timeline needed to rent equipment and enter the darkness to rescue them. The squad leader clarifies that all these meticulous steps are necessary to rescue the squad. Solium is amazed that his leader can neutralize an A-rank supernatural phenomenon single-handedly. A glitched, pixelated record reveals the squad leader as a legendary named employee. Solium wonders if his leader is a legendary named employee and asks what mask he wears. A bright flash of hope ignites in the darkness as a potential strategy emerges. Solium loudly shouts his answer on stage, catching the attention of the cheerful television-headed host. The host asks if he is ready to make a great broadcast, and Solium politely agrees. The host happily praises Solium's performance, calling him great. Solium notes the friendly tone, realizing the smiley sticker's psychological effect is still active. Clenching the button, Solium tells himself that a survival plan is now fully prepared. Mr. Badger and Peregrine Falcon look on in nervous silence under the dim stage lights. Red spiked focus text builds anticipation for the next phase of Solium's desperate gamble. Solium resolves that the remaining survivors must escape alive as he calls out to the host. Solium takes a bold step forward and tells the host that he has something to say. In a bonus comic panel, staff spray cleaner to wipe down the host's television screen. The host leans in curiously, asking what Solium wanted to show him. Solium prepares to manipulate the host's emotions, knowing there is no other way to survive. Solium flatters the host, praising the immense effort put into creating this broadcast. Solium praises the show's trendy set aesthetics and the host's highly flexible, dynamic style. Solium mentally laments abandoning his dignity to pour out endless flattery to save his life. A cheerful blushing smiley face shines brightly on the screen to show the host's delight. Flattered host happily declares that the show is a team effort and includes Solium too. Solium changes his strategy, expressing disappointment that the beloved show has changed so drastically. The host stands in silence as the screen displays a simple, neutral smiley face. Solium critiques the lack of live music, removed punishments, and reliance on pre-recorded sound effects. Solium fondly recalls how the host's waiting room walls were once covered in talk show posters. Solium reminisces about the exciting days when the broadcast happened live in real time. Solium suggests that the show's disappointing restructuring was done merely to cut costs. Solium asks if the cheap format is due to the pig guest booking eating the budget. Solium reasons that the host himself must surely despise this cheap new pre-recorded format. The television screen glitches in stunned silence as Solium's psychological critique hits its mark. The host coldly states participants shouldn't worry about it, prompting a sweating Solium to apologize. Solium flatters the host by claiming he is a massive fan of the quiz show and was saddened by its discontinuation, prompting a flattered response from the host. The television-headed host laments the harsh realities of the entertainment business and notes that shows must adapt to what viewers prefer. A text panel highlights that quickly accepting and adapting to industry changes is a key qualification for any entertainer. Solim passionately argues against the host, gesturing to his chest as he continues his critique of the show's new format. Solim expresses his strong preference for the old interactive live broadcast format over the current pre-recorded one. Solim quickly backtracks and apologizes for letting his personal opinions as a fan get the best of him. The host remains completely silent as his television screen glitches with colorful static. The host suddenly announces the filming will resume in 1 minute and orders everyone back to their positions as the countdown begins. Solim mentally notes that he has successfully prepared all the necessary groundwork for his plan. Solim steels his resolve as the countdown continues, preparing himself for the high-stakes moment. The countdown advances to its final seconds, accompanied by a grim reminder of the deadly consequences of failure. The countdown reaches its final 10 seconds, signaling the resumption of the deadly broadcast. A sudden sharp clack sounds as the red digital scoreboard flashes a perfect score of 100. The official broadcast title card appears on the screen, signaling the official restart of the show. Sitting alone in the quiet dressing room, Solim begins to piece together a critical detail. Inspecting the small communicator button, Solim tries to recall the specific mask his team leader wore. Solim questions if his team leader's mask was indeed lizard. The host demands that a terrified Mr. Badger step forward and deliver his final answer immediately. Mr. Badger remains frozen in sheer terror under the immense pressure of the looming deadline. Solim glances at Mr. Badger, recognizing his position as a supervisor. Solim realizes Mr. Badger will likely fail and reflects that incineration might be preferable to becoming a gruesome eternal instrument. Solim urges Mr. Badger to stay strong and answer correctly, shocking the panicked supervisor. The host warns Mr. Badger that only 3 seconds remain, leaving him speechless and paralyzed. Overwhelmed by panic, Mr. Badger braces himself for the worst as the last seconds tick away. To everyone's shock, the host enthusiastically announces that Mr. Badger's answer is correct. A sudden booming wow echoes as the studio erupts in celebration. The host eagerly commands the pig conductor to initiate Mr. Badger into the horrific chorus of glory. Mr. Badger instantly vanishes from his spot, leaving behind only a brown postcard fluttering off the podium. The mysterious postcard floats through the air, capturing the attention of the remaining participants. Solim recognizes that the communicator button can only transfer small, physical items through its portal. Solim decides that the minimal transport capability is more than enough to execute his plan. Solim prepares to launch his projectile with maximum physical force. Solim commands himself to hurl the object as hard as he possibly can. A powerful kinetic strike slices cleanly through the air, tearing the floating postcard apart. The high-speed projectile strikes the pig conductor directly across his face, interrupting his performance. The tiny thrown object bounces off the floor with a sharp metallic ring. The object is revealed to be nothing more than a single bent AAA battery. Solim confirms that his tactical prediction was absolutely correct. The system notes that Employee D's unique role allows him to physically manifest items inside supernatural realms. The legendary Employee D stands ready, his physical intervention proving to be the ultimate wildcard. Solim reasons that while the conductor is invulnerable, targeting his physical musical instrument would successfully disrupt him. Solim hopes that breaking the instrument will successfully pause the supernatural quiz show's flow. The host continues his prompt, oblivious to the sudden disruption occurring on stage. Mr. Badger looks around in confusion as the host calls out to the conductor, noting that the audience is waiting. The host repeatedly calls out to the conductor, who has gone completely stiff and silent. An eerie, distorted hum begins to fill the silent studio as the conductor remains incapacitated. At that exact moment, a swirling dark crimson void begins to rupture the stage. A terrifying phenomenon begins to emerge directly from the conductor's mouth. The pig conductor's bleeding, distorted face reveals his true, monstrous A-rank supernatural form. The sheer, overwhelming horror of the creature's true form paralyzes the remaining survivors. A terrifying screech disrupts Solim's focus, sending a chilling shiver straight down his spine. Panic sets in as Solim realizes his desperate gamble might tear the entire dimension apart. A monstrous, chaotic power surges upward from the center of the cracking stage floor. Distorted screams echo in the darkness as the chaotic, insect-like chorus spirals out of control. The television host stands in menacing shock as a sudden cutting motion slices the air. The television host points his gloved finger at Solim, expressing deep shock at his sudden defiance. A glitching notification warns that the participants show absolutely no respect for the show. Amidst rising flames, the host proclaims that true showbiz must remain faithful to its essence. The host fondly recalls the joy of witnessing and communicating during his classic live broadcasts. The host praises the thrill of twists as the thrown object cuts through the air. Solim watches tensely as the host emphasizes the anticipation of what comes next. The television-headed host passionately claims that modern producers are unqualified to create genuine entertainment. The host proudly boasts of his own supreme capability to create true entertainment. A bright star flashes in the crimson void as the host proclaims his identity. The TV-headed host ecstatically declares himself to be more than qualified to produce a show. A monstrous pig skull disintegrates, signaling the complete destruction of the A-rank supernatural realm. Silence falls over the dark stage as a blood-stained white cloth is pulled away. A glitchy system notification formally addresses Solium by his official alias, Mr. Rodeer. A gray system box displays a simple message of gratitude to Solium. Wiping blood from his face, Solium receives a system notification that he obtained a vision. The host praises Solium's talent as a show creator and invites him for future broadcasts. Static fills the screen as a system notification promises to invite Solium back next time. The three exhausted, glitching survivors recover in silence inside a quiet dressing room. Mr. Badger and Peregrine Falcon stare at Solemn in stunned silence after their escape. Mr. Badger and Peregrine Falcon hug Solium, shouting ecstatic praises for his crazy success. Solemn tightly clutches his glowing communicator button, relieved to have survived the nightmare. Peregrine Falcon alerts Solium, reminding him to retrieve the valuable essence collector. A bright golden flash illuminates the scene as the essence harvesting process begins. Golden liquid flows into a glass container, capturing the essence of the defeated realm. Mr. Badger looks on in deep appreciation, calling out to Solium. The TV-headed host and a wolf-headed figure negotiate budget issues in a bonus strip. A narrative text asks where the other rookie employees were during Solium's brutal shift. Go Youngin, a new brown-haired R-Squad employee, reviews her F-rank exploration stats. Go Youngin reassures herself that clearing 2 F-rank darknesses is a great start. Go Youngin sits at her desk, noting that her squad's hazing isn't too bad. Go Youngin resolves to gather the massive amount of points needed for a wish ticket. Go Youngin looks at the employee group chat, wondering how her fellow rookies are doing. Her phone screen suddenly lights up with a message from the employee group chat. Rapid flurry of text notifications floods her phone screen with incoming messages. Go Youngin reads group chat messages asking about Solium's legendary A-rank clear in shock. A calendar page rewinds the scene to the afternoon of Solium's second day. Solemn drinks recovery medicine while someone notes discussions about promoting him to supervisor. Mr. Badger explains department opposition to the promotion, which Solium is relieved to hear. Splattered blood stains the floor as Solium feels glad they survived the deadly show. Mr. Badger smiles warmly and expresses his deep gratitude to Solium. Mr. Badger treats Solium to massive piles of desserts, but Solium flatly refuses. Solemn privately reflects that his exploration tool did all of the heavy lifting. Mr. Badger excuses their carelessness, but Peregrine Falcon dismisses it as a pathetic excuse. Peregrine Falcon vows to prove herself next time, prompting a chibi Solium to hope there isn't one. Peregrine Falcon asks for a drink while Mr. Badger wonders how management is reporting this case. The blue-haired woman finishes her drink while wishing their team leader would advocate more strongly to upper management. Mr. Badger suggests making an appeal after promotion, but Peregrine Falcon plans to resign first while Solium agrees. A sudden sharp bzzz buzzes from the phone as Peregrine Falcon pauses her drink to check it. Mr. Badger announces that the meeting is over, making Solium wonder if he will finally see the squad leader's face. The narrative screen profiles the legendary figure who pulled off a brilliant play using batteries during the quiz show. The office sliding door glides open smoothly, signaling the arrival of the mysterious squad leader. Mr. Badger stands up in polite surprise, welcoming the newly arrived squad leader to the room. Dramatic visual announcement heralds the sudden shocking reveal of the squad leader's true identity. The squad leader, possessing the literal head of a white lizard, casually greets the room. While the others happily welcome the leader, Solium is left entirely speechless in sheer confusion. Solium rationalizes that his brain must be experiencing psychological confusion after the TV-headed host's supernatural influence. Solium's eyes widen as he notices a white lizard mask hanging directly from the leader's waist. Mr. Badger introduces Section Chief Lee Jae-hyun, leaving Solium to question why everyone else is acting so normal. The lizard-headed section chief turns his gaze directly towards Solium and calls him by his alias. The chief leans in close, his crimson reptile eye glowing as he asks if Solium can see him. Solemn freezes in absolute silence under the heavy pressure of the chief's intense, narrow gaze. Relying on his rapid reflexes, Solium quickly asserts that his eyes are completely uninjured and his vision is normal. The section chief calmly accepts the response while Solium desperately tries to maintain a relaxed expression. Solium remains deeply puzzled as to why he is the only one who perceives the section chief as a reptile. A warning message emphasizes that Solium must absolutely avoid showing his internal shock to anyone. Section Chief Lee Jae-hyun gets straight to the point, preparing to share critical details regarding the recent incident. A visual record illustrates that the entire situation was initially triggered by interference from another team. A dark screen questions how the two groups ultimately ended up trapped within the same darkness. A bright visual explains that a staff error caused the Tuesday quiz show to be assigned twice. The record suggests the other team delayed their entry slightly to buy coffee, creating a fatal time difference. The team is shocked to learn that the Tuesday quiz show's reclassification to A-rank was officially rejected. Outraged speech bubbles protest that an entire team was wiped out despite obtaining a true A-rank solution. Upset by the unfair decision, Peregrine Falcon storms off to confront management while Mr. Badger tries to stop her. Mr. Badger holds Peregrine Falcon back as the section chief calmly tells them no. The section chief explains that separate compensation was awarded, which Solium translates as hush money. Peregrine Falcon remains incredibly frustrated as Mr. Badger tries his best to placate her. Solemn is stunned to hear that the total compensation awarded amounts to 40,000 points. As Mr. Badger celebrates the massive point reward, Solium notes his retirement is drawing years closer. Peregrine Falcon apologetically notes that points cannot be transferred, but Solium reassures her it is fine. Solium reflects that avoiding an official A-rank clearance record keeps him safe from worse horrors. Solium reminds himself that this is a lethal world where a single slip leads directly to death. Mr. Badger enthusiastically suggests they check the newly acquired points on the office computer immediately. A thought box explains that employees risk their lives in deadly realms purely to buy a wish ticket. Peregrine Falcon leans in to ask Solium if he remembers how to register his points. 3 teammates gather around the monitor watching the point registration process in anticipation. Solemn is amazed to realize he has already filled 8% of his wish ticket requirement. Mr. Badger smiles warmly at their success while Peregrine Falcon looks on with an amused expression. Peregrine Falcon looks back with confusion as the section chief stands quietly in his chibi form. Having survived the ordeal and earned a massive lump of points, the teammates decide to celebrate. Smiling brightly, Peregrine Falcon enthusiastically suggests they go out for their first company dinner. The scene shifts to the bright, inviting exterior of a local meat restaurant at sunset. Mr. Badger insists on grilling the meat himself, refusing to let a rookie do work during a celebration. While urged to relax and eat, Solium silently notes that he is not just being self-conscious. Solemn sweats as the lizard-headed section chief licks his lips while grilling, forcing him to look away. A cute chibi pattern confirms that the other team members definitely do not see the chief's lizard face. Solium finds the dinner atmosphere relaxing, noting that the alcohol is successfully calming his nerves. Solium reflects on past corporate dinners that were always strictly for entertaining business clients. The 3 colleagues enjoy grilling meat and drinking together in a rare moment of relaxation. Solium plans to recover by watching children's cartoons, but his thoughts are interrupted by his alias. The lizard-headed section chief asks if Solium intends to use his newly acquired reward points. Solium explains his goal of saving points for a wish ticket while his teammates bicker. Solium asks the section chief for advice on the best way to utilize his points. The section chief suggests investing the points into obtaining customized equipment instead. Solium is caught off guard by the sudden mention of custom gear. A glowing briefcase symbolizes the exclusive specialized equipment granted to employees of the dangerous company. A dark narrative comic illustrates how the company sends its workforce into lethal supernatural scenarios. A dark truth looms over the extreme fatality rate of high-rank supernatural missions. To ensure survival, employees are equipped with increasingly powerful and customized gear as they rank up. The gear only offers minor stat improvements rather than granting overwhelming supernatural abilities. Solium admits his knowledge about the specialized equipment's precise mechanics remains somewhat limited. Mr. Badger guides Solium through a secure annex where stable supernatural anomalies are isolated. The annex houses beneficial anomalies, like a radio that predicts daily fortunes. Peregrine Falcon reveals these curated low-danger supernatural phenomena are officially classified as even fall rank. A unique ranking system exists for anomalies that bridge the gap between varying threat levels. The section chief explains that even fall rank anomalies are utilized to craft the specialized equipment. Solium recognizes the industrial utility the company extracts from otherwise dangerous phenomena. Solium recalls the 3 specific even fall rank anomalies used for crafting gear. Mr. Badger spots someone ahead, catching Solium's attention as they walk. A mysterious, heavily concealed staff member waits behind the information desk in the dark. Mr. Badger requests access to even fall rank darkness number 99 for newbie training. The silent receptionist processes the request without speaking a word. Heavy metallic thud echoes as the security doors ahead begin to unlock. Solium catches his own reflection in the silent guard's dark lenses. The group arrives at the heavy metal gate marked with the number 99. The massive vault door slowly swings open, spilling cold blue light into the corridor. They find a complex machine that processes objects like plants powered entirely by moonlight. Mr. Badger explains that this unique device synthesizes 2 different items into a new creation. Peregrine Falcon asks about the costs, and Mr. Badger confirms a fee is required. Solium is outraged to learn that the company charges them for using essential equipment. Learning that supervisors get free uses makes Solium second-guess declining his promotion. Solium hesitates, feeling that spending 1,000 points on a trial is far too wasteful. Remembering the section chief's strong recommendation, Solium decides there must be a valid reason. Solium changes his mind and confidently announces that he wants to proceed with the trial. The machine processes 2 input items, fusing their distinct properties into a singular new object. Mr. Badger advises selecting materials with highly useful traits, which Solium has already researched. Mr. Badger cheerfully suggests borrowing items from the team to craft his first customized equipment. Mr. Badger asks the section chief to showcase his highly superior custom gear. The section chief's custom equipment is revealed to be a space-slicing butter knife. Solium connects the butter knife to the miraculous battery throw from their previous mission. Solium inquires about his other teammates' gear, and Mr. Badger explains his is for deception. Peregrine Falcon displays her buttons, leaving Solium to realize none of them possess defensive equipment. A decisive shift in strategy begins as Solium considers his next move. The butter knife is placed on the machine scanner, radiating a bright green light. A brilliant crimson burst of light signals that the fusion process has successfully initiated. The machine prompts Solium to load the second object alongside the butter knife. The blue-haired woman firmly warns Solium never to place real plants inside the fusion machine. She explains that the door sensors filter them out anyway, but warns him just in case. Solium realizes that the weeds surrounding the facility are actually completely artificial plants. Sweat drops from his face as he remembers a terrifying record about the facility. He recalls a heavily censored incident report detailing a fatal event at the company. The report reveals 3 employees died during a week-long suppression after plants were brought in. White Lizard-headed Chief explains that fusing common everyday items often yields weak supernatural traits. Solium reviews his inventory of supernatural items, trying to choose the highest-ranking one on hand. He decides to use the silver serpent coin he recently purchased at the welfare mall. The lizard-headed Chief asks about the coin, and Solium describes it as a commemorative item. The brown-haired man comments on its convenient size, while the blue-haired woman stands cross-armed. Looking into the Chief's massive crimson reptile eye, Solium hopes his cover remains intact. He slides the coin into the slot, reasoning it is too ordinary to raise suspicion. Sharp click echoes as the red buttons on the console suddenly light up. The green display demands plants, prompting Solium to realize the true nature of custom equipment. The process requires scanning the owner's genetic information, much like tending to a plant. Green lasers grate across Solium's face as the system registers his genetic details. Mechanical whirs and clanks sound as the machine begins combining genetic information and generating a kit. A sudden, blinding flash of green light erupts, illuminating the team gathered around the machine. White steam rises from the vents with a sharp hiss as the process concludes. The chamber opens to reveal a lush bed of flowers, and his teammates congratulate him. In a brief comic, the Lizard Chief offers Solium buttered bread made with his knife. Blue-haired woman advises Solium to test his new custom weapon once he gets home. She wishes him a good night's rest after his exhausting ordeal, smiling warmly. Back in his room, Solium sits on his bed and prepares to test his item. He reflects on the 2 specific pieces of equipment he used for the genetic fusion. The system diagram shows the Chief's butter knife and the silver serpent coin being fused. A silver coin engraved with a black handprint shines with a brilliant white light. Solium examines the newly crafted coin in his room, wondering how to activate it. He sweats, worrying he might have wasted his points on a useless toy core. Deciding there's only one way to find out, Solium prepares to flip it. With a bright ting, he flips the silver coin high up into the air. As the coin spins, a translucent, ghostly hand suddenly manifests in the middle of the room. Solium freezes in shock as the spectral hand hovers directly in front of his face. The ghost hand gestures for a coin, leaving Solium to realize it requires payment. When he tries a tiny coin donation, the chibi ghost hand angrily slaps it away. The translucent hand clenches into a fist, demanding a more appropriate amount of money. Once satisfied, the glowing spectral glove flies directly towards Solium's outstretched hand. Solium watches in awe as the translucent glove slips over his hand. The ghostly energy merges completely with his hand, leaving him with a strange sensation. A physical shadow of his hand separates and begins floating freely on the floor. Solium raises his arm, and the dark shadow hand mimics his movements perfectly. He marvels at the glowing manifestation, questioning if this is the coin's true ability. Looking from behind, Solium watches the glowing hand float weightlessly in the air. He clenches his fist to test how the floating shadow hand responds to his command. Dark shadow hand mirrors his fist, clenching tightly with surprising force. He commands the floating hand to pick up a pen and write on a notebook. The shadow hand writes a message, proving its physical strength and dexterity match his own. Visual examples demonstrate how the shadow hand can easily open doors and pry open metal lids. After about 5 seconds, the dark hand fades away, revealing its strict operational time limit. The lizard-headed section chief's weapon is a butter knife that slices spatial boundaries to navigate between reality and darkness. Staring at his ghostly new spectral hand in the glass, Solium feels relieved that he won't have to touch dangerous anomalies directly anymore. Kim Solium reviews his bag inventory, noting the newly added custom coin weapon alongside his other supernatural items. Relaxing in his dark bedroom under the blankets, Solium considers the high investment of his telekinetic coin but finds the 5-second limit acceptable. Lying down on his pillow, Solium rests peacefully while noting his body feels surprisingly healthy after the recent ordeal. A moment of quiet reflection as Solium acknowledges the immense support and good fortune of those working alongside him. Solium fondly remembers his supportive teammates Park Minsong, who stayed calm near death, and Eun Haje, who trusted him with her gear. Solium reflects on how Eun Haje's trust allowed him to secure crucial assistance from Section Chief Lee Jahan. Enjoying a quiet moment together, the team shares drinks at a bar as Solium feels a sense of optimistic determination. Closing his eyes to sleep, Solium believes he can find a way to endure and survive this dangerous workplace. Under a crescent moon, the company building stands tall as a somber realization breaks Solium's brief optimism. Yoon Ha-jae sits wearily on the office couch with a warm cup of coffee, looking deeply concerned about their situation. Solium stands in the bright office and grimly announces that their current job assignments are about to change. A company mobile chat log displays festive cartoon stickers alongside a notification about the webtoon title. The digital system screen illustrates the requirements for employee level-ups and department reassignments. The room fills with tension as Solium points out how unfair this is for a new hire, while Yoon Ha-jae expresses her frustration. Solemn looks at his phone screen displaying a mysterious identification code related to a corporate quiz show. Colorful cartoon mascots celebrate a massive performance milestone, encouraging employees to throw themselves into danger for points. Chibi versions of the team pose victoriously on a massive sparkling mountain of gold coins. Solium is completely stunned to find himself listed as a major contributor with a massive point reward on his screen. Solium panics, realizing his sudden promotion means he is being transferred to an incredibly dangerous department. Yoon Ha-jae narrows her eyes and reacts with intense irritation to Solium's worried questions. Park Min-sung slumps his shoulders in deep depression, dreading the possibility of a squad-wide transfer. Yoon Ha-jae takes a long sip of her coffee and explains that only the nature of their work is changing. Yoon Ha-jae points out that their past missions always involved supernatural occurrences that already had fully completed manuals. With a sudden tear, Yoon Ha-jae rips open her collar as she warns that future assignments will not have any helpful manuals. Solemn looks on in utter disbelief as shredded remnants of corporate manuals flutter aimlessly around him. Yoon Ha-jae complains bitterly about upper management throwing them into danger while they slide the office door open. The massive white lizard-headed chief slides into the room, prompting Yoon Ha-jae to angrily question him about the new memo. Desperate protests fill the room as the team complains about being sent to clear manual list darknesses. Chibi lizard-headed chief ignores their complaints completely, tilting his head with cute sparkles and a carefree expression. Solium and Yoon Ha-jae stare in absolute shock at their squad leader's utterly unbothered attitude. A stark reminder appears on screen noting that people die even during missions that have fully completed manuals. The lizard-headed chief looks down with deadpan amusement at his two exasperated and totally speechless team members. Ripping a digital manual screen in half, the chief casually notes that he never felt any difference with or without manuals. Solium steps forward and asks the giant chief if there is any benefit to this terrifying reassignment. The chief's confirmation of additional point rewards causes Park Min-sung and Yoon Ha-jae's eyes to light up with greed. Park Min-sung eagerly steps forward to ask if the bonus points are truly massive, and the chief confirms it. The chief explains that the rewards are up to 15 times higher, turning the team's eyes into giant point symbols. Solium watches his teammates transform into greedy gamblers, sweat dropping at their sudden loss of survival instincts. Solemn realizes this isn't gambling for him as he possesses exclusive wiki records to safely navigate the darkness. A golden slot machine displaying 3 P symbols triggers, framing this dangerous mission as a lucrative triple-point event. Yoon Ha-jae boldly leads the group forward, rallying the energized team to head out and collect their points. A soft chime rings out as the digital display on the elevator screen flashes the number 17. Riding the elevator up, Yoon Ha-jae explains that floors 17 through 20 are occupied by the development department. The doors open to reveal a sprawling high-tech laboratory where researchers scout out newly discovered supernatural anomalies. The massive lizard-headed chief steps out of the elevator first, catching the attention of the on-site research staff. A passing researcher comments on Solium's growing fame, leaving him wondering if he is being treated like a celebrity. A friendly arm extends from off-screen, offering a hand for Solium to shake in greeting. A handsome white-haired researcher wearing wire glasses and a lab coat greets the team with a gentle, knowing smile. Sitting wearily on his bed, Solium reflects on the high cost of his newly upgraded coin weapon. In the brightly lit development department, Kim Solium stands face-to-face with the friendly silver-haired researcher. Staring at the unfamiliar researcher, Solium silently wonders about the man's identity. Glasses-wearing researcher maintains his warm, knowing smile as he observes the new arrival. Extending his hand in greeting, Section Chief Kwak Jae-gang warmly expresses his anticipation of working together. Solium is startled to hear the chief's name, while Yoon Ha-jae calmly confirms his famous identity. Solemn introduces himself with a respectful bow, earning immediate praise from Kwak Jae-gang for his polite manners. Yoon Ha-jae whispers reassurance about the chief, while Solium silently questions her own managerial title in comparison. Solium silently reflects that his true surprise does not stem from Kwak Jae-gang's section chief status. Kwak Jae-gang glances back over his shoulder with an easygoing, pleasant expression. The system record profiles researcher Kwak Jae-gang as a prominent figure in the raw materials development department. Solium decides to keep his composure and avoid making his internal thoughts obvious to the research team. Kwak Jae-gang cheerfully notes they will be working together often, while Section Chief Lee Jae-an simple-mindedly agrees. Solium asks for an explanation, but the simple-minded lizard chief replies with an automated one-word answer. Narration explains Research Team 1 develops entry methods, leaving Squad D responsible for exploring these new darknesses. Once Squad D completes their hazardous exploration, the research department drafts a comprehensive manual from their data. Solium realizes the research department creates their assignments, while the lizard chief enthusiastically prepares to move on. Kwak Jae-gang strikes a confident pose, smiling calmly in the bright light of the laboratory. The lizard chief reviews the research paperwork while Eun-hajae stands behind him looking utterly unimpressed. Eun-hajae internally seethes at the basic explanation, forcing Park Min-sung to frantically plead with her to stay calm. Solium is suddenly interrupted as another voice calls out to grab his attention. A gray-haired researcher casually sits back and invites Solium to place a bet on the darkness's rank. As Solium reacts with confusion, the researcher explains that the lab staff regularly gamble on incoming mission ranks. Solium instantly declines the gambling offer and walks away, leaving the researcher visibly startled by his refusal. Solium wonders why management permits gambling, unaware of a creepy spectral hand resting on his shoulder. Kwak Jae-gong joins in, laughing merrily as he playfully pressures Solium to participate in the bet. Stunned by their lack of professionalism, Solium maintains a deadpan expression, which the researcher praises as true guts. Researcher quickly laughs off the tension, claiming his gambling invitation was merely a harmless joke. Kwak Jae-gong reviews the documents and assures Solium that ordinary civilians easily escape the specific darkness. Kwak Jae-gong mentions the Disaster Management Bureau is demanding its closure, causing major headaches for their planning team. Kwak Jae-gong hands over the file and Solium accepts it, focused primarily on understanding the upcoming threat. Solium rationalizes that the anomaly must be a low D-rank threat, attempting to calm his rising anxiety. Reading the file, Solium is utterly baffled by mentions of a YouTube clown as a voice speaks up. A hand presents a digital tablet instructing the horned Solium to watch the recorded footage of the anomaly. The screen plays a video of a sinister obese clown standing in a dimly lit hallway with music notes. The clown's face fills the frame, displaying a hideous blood-stained grin that mockingly smirks at the camera. Static glitches violently as the creepy clown erupts into a distorted, spine-chilling fit of silent laughter. An oppressive wave of static noise and terrifying visual glitches visualizes the clown's unsettling manic laughter. Suddenly, a pair of blood-red ghostly hands materialize and violently wrap around Solium's neck. The sinister crimson hand tightens its grip, clawing desperately at Solium's collar as he struggles. Solemn is dragged downward as he realizes the horrifying truth about the anomaly's class of entity. Kwak Jae-gong adjusts his glasses in mild surprise as he notices Solium's sudden violent physical distress. The spectral hands tighten their strangling grip, suffocating Solium in a blur of glitchy red energy. Realizing the immediate danger, Kwak Jae-gong finally reacts in panic and shouts out in concern. Suffocating under the assault, Solium frantically regrets his greed and wishes to cancel the triple-point event. A desperate, white-hot scream echoes in his mind as he realizes how terrifying this assignment truly is. The terrifying clown's face looms large, staring with vacant black eyes and a cruel blood-red smile. The official title card appears, decorated with playing cards and chains under a dark crimson light. A creepy framed portrait of the clown is shown alongside a chilling system notification warning that the Bureau hates him. Glitchy database entries reveal the official classification and identification code for this terrifying new supernatural ghost story. The dark crimson corridor is lined with looping, infinitely repeating clown portraits. Min-sung notices with a start that the portraits are not actual clowns. The system explains that these are people grotesquely twisted into wearing forced, artificial smiles. The longer one lingers in the space, the more twisted the portraits become. Eun-hajae notes that missing victims are eventually converted into new clown paintings. Narration observes that such proactive horror movie-style exploration records are exceptionally rare in the field. Solemn silently sweats in terror, thinking that anyone would be absolutely frightened by this place. Eun-hajae calmly looks around the dim room, finding the darkness surprisingly manageable. Min-sung suggests letting their eyes adjust to the darkness for 60 seconds, which the chief agrees to. Solemn is utterly dumbfounded that his squad mates are seriously planning to close their eyes here. Solium wonders how they can casually close their eyes in a corridor full of creepy portraits. Eun-hajae instructs Solium to close his eyes too, and he reluctantly complies. Looking at the cute clown illustrations, Solium's sweat drops at his teammates' total lack of fear. He imagines them falling asleep in a movie theater because horror movies are too boring for them. Eun-hajae reads the manual, noting that stabbing the portraits will trigger jump scares. The White Lizard Chief learns that civilians manage to escape through empty portrait frames. A blood-spattered Min-sung eagerly suggests stabbing every single portrait they come across. The chief commands the team to repeat this tactical portrait stabbing routine at fixed intervals. Min-sung cheerfully asks Solemn if he saw the weird clown portrait on the wall. Min-sung tells Solemn he can finally open his eyes to view the terrifying corridor. Solemn opens his eyes to face a glowing-eyed clown staring directly back at him. Eun-hajae identifies the newly transformed clown portrait as one of the missing civilians. Min-sung playfully nudges Solium, asking if he wants to touch the creepy frame first. Solemn remains deadpan, suddenly declaring that he has figured out the way to escape. Min-sung, Eun-hajae, and the Lizard Chief stare back in absolute shock and disbelief. Min-sung gasps in confusion, questioning how Solium already found an exit in 5 minutes. Solemn stands confidently under a spotlight, determined to execute an incredibly fast speedrun escape. Solemn retrieves a special coin from his suit pocket, ready to activate his upgraded weapon. With a sudden ringing clink, Solium flips the glowing golden coin high into the dark air. With a sudden soft poof, a giant white-gloved hand materializes from a dark portal. Yoon Hajae examines the bizarre summon, asking Solium if this is his exclusive specialized equipment. Solium pulls out a handful of gleaming coins showing off his newly upgraded custom weapon. Pop! Colorful fireworks burst on screen, displaying a series of 500 won donation alerts. Solium explains that the giant white hand can be remotely controlled by inserting coins. A dark spectral hand guides the group forward through the eerie crimson corridor of portraits. Minsong asks if Solium's escape strategy relies entirely on this floating white hand. I understand. Please provide the text and I will read it back faster for you. What would you like me to say? The display reveals that a single correct portrait is hidden among the gallery. Minsong deduces that the clowns crawling out were simply the incorrect choices. Solemn instructs the team to run and find the portrait matching his upcoming description. Solemn politely asks the White Lizard Chief for permission to lead their escape attempt. The chief proudly approves, earning praise as an exceptionally generous and understanding leader. Minsong stretches his arms, excited to run fast to catch up to their squad leader. Solemn internally apologizes to his seniors for misleading them about the escape requirements. Solemn's inner thoughts reveal that they don't actually need to run to survive. He notes that brave people can easily stroll through while casually touching the portraits. A chibi corpse shows that a coward like him would simply perish from sudden fright. With a sharp sudden shiver, Solium's glowing red eye locks onto the dark corridor ahead. He resolves that the only way for him to survive is a rapid, uninterrupted escape. A digital timer indicates that exactly 4 minutes and 29 seconds have elapsed. Colorful clown smiles wickedly in a framed portrait, prompting a haunted house speedrun. Empty, blood-splattered portrait frames line a dark red wall below the stylized Manhwa title. An inquisitive voice asks Section Chief Kwak about the rank of the upcoming mission. Supervisor Lee playfully tells Kwak Jae-gung to keep the betting discussion strictly within their department. Supervisor Lee reluctantly agrees to avoid mentioning the bets in front of other teams. Kwak Jae-gung notes how Supervisor Lee normally laughs along but is currently nitpicking and ruining the mood. Internal thoughts assert that a specific individual is the true mood killer in the department. Supervisor Lee furiously recalls Solium, the annoying newcomer from the field exploration team. Solemn's cold, intense stare is remembered as staring daggers at his superior during the betting offer. A pair of hands type furiously on a keyboard, venting frustration about the high and mighty newcomer. An anonymous user in the company betting chat places a bet of 10 points on a D rank. A hostile message pops up, expressing a malicious hope that Solium perishes in the darkness. Kwak Jae-gung cheerfully orders Supervisor Lee to sort out the pre-report by the end of the day. Supervisor Lee glances at a clock, confident the team will not escape before he clocks out. The quiet laboratory is filled only with the rhythmic sound of persistent typing. A document details how viewing a suspicious video ad initiates the anomaly's portal. Supervisor Lee remembers that some lucky civilians have managed to make it out alive. Explanation text reveals that escaping through the empty clown portrait returns victims to reality. Multiple red frames with question marks emphasize that every victim's testimony of the corridor's layout differs. An illustration depicts the exhausting trial of constantly waking, evading, and fighting the aggressive clowns. Supervisor Lee smiles maliciously, anticipating that the correct portrait's ambiguity will drive the team to madness. Suddenly, a portal bursts open and a battered Minsong crashes out, announcing a clear. Supervisor Lee drops his jaw in utter shock, sweat dripping down his pale face. The entire team stands relaxed in the office, casually discussing getting snacks and coffee as if nothing happened. Supervisor Lee gasps at the clock, shocked they cleared the darkness in 26 minutes. Read back faster as Supervisor Lee gasps at the clock, shocked they cleared the darkness in 26 minutes. An ecstatic Kwak Jae-gung asks if the White Lizard Chief is his usual brute force approach gun. Chibi Yoon Hajae corrects him, explaining that their youngest squad member did all the work. Solemn looks back calmly, greeting the surprised researchers with a deadpan expression. Kwak Jae-gung ponders the newbie's incredible feat, comparing him to the legendary roe deer. Kwak Jae-gung narrows his eyes thoughtfully, staring intensely at the calm black-haired boy. Kwak Jae-gung asks Solemn to explain the clearing mechanism, and Solemn calmly agrees. Solium begins his explanation by detailing the specific advertisement that initiated the anomaly's corridor. Text boxes describe a standard clown as a colorful, smiling entertainer who performs various tricks. Contrastingly, a Pierrot is defined as a French clown with monochrome makeup and a crying face. Solium explains that the title Pierrot hates you was the hint that the creature would not chase. Solium explains that they searched for the monochrome portrait to prove his theory. Solium demonstrates how they maintained a safe distance of 3 meters and used a summoned hand. As a result, the crying Pierrot quietly vanished from the monochrome portrait. Solium concludes his brief explanation, leaving the laboratory room in complete silence. Kwak Jae-gung and Supervisor Lee are stunned that he solved a new darkness's mechanism in 30 minutes. Kwak Jae-gung asks how Solium identified the correct portrait in the absolute pitch dark of the corridor. White Lizard Chief's eyes glow red as he notes their leader has night vision. Kwak Jae-gung smiles warmly as a gloved hand presents him with the mission's written data. Kwak Jae-gung reviews the file, amazed that Solium deduced everything simply from the background information. Supervisor Lee's sweat drops, looking extremely nervous and uncomfortable in his chair. Supervisor Lee's internal monologue panics, unable to comprehend the rookie's genius speedrun. Solam stands silently in profile as Supervisor Lee wonders if he is a monster. Minsung playfully asks Solam if he brought anything back from the darkness. A black-gloved hand holds a white ruffled collar piece pulled straight from the anomaly. Chibi Yoon-hajae notes that the squad leader grabbed the Pyro by the collar as it tried to flee. The title chapter begins with green-haired Supervisor Lee sweating nervously in his office. Solium stands quietly in the laboratory watching Section Chief Kwok look over some documents. Chief Kwok asks Solem about receiving a business card, but Solem explains he has not received any yet. Chief Kwok smiles knowingly, suggestively hinting that he meant a different kind of card. A spotlight shines on a mysterious white card as Solium ponders its origin. Solem suddenly remembers the enigmatic name card he received during his employment ceremony. Chief Kwok encourages Solium to call the number on the card to earn points faster, leaving Solium suspicious. Solium immediately declines the offer, catching Chief Kwok completely off guard. Chief Kwok questions his quick rejection while Solium remains silent and guarded. Terribly anxious, Solium silently fears that calling the number will drag him into highly dangerous missions. The mere thought of facing high-level threats drains Solium's mental energy as Chief Kwok watches. Solium finds comfort in knowing he already earns triple points from lower-class anomalies. Solemn resolutely refuses any terrifying events, much to the silent disappointment of the anomalies. Solium is perfectly content sticking to easy missions where he can easily search up solutions. He feels entirely secure knowing he has his exclusive Ghost Story wiki to guide him. Squad D successfully clears another new anomaly in just over an hour. Whispering onlookers marvel at Squad D's incredible speed in completing and documenting clearances. Yoon-hajae smiles warmly, praising Solium for helping them clear 12 new anomalies in a month. Minsong ecstatically shows off his phone screen, bragging about the massive point total he earned. His teammates praise his unmatched performance, though Solium notes he has not met any fellow recruits. Threatening, ominous voice interrupts, asking about their next planned exploration. Solemn recalls acting like a crazed lunatic in front of his peers to keep up his facade. Back in the office, Yoon-hajae offers Solium a seat as they discuss his next steps. Reports show that Solium's rapid clearances have drawn significant corporate attention from the higher-ups. Yoon-hajae warns him to report any strange or suspicious offers he receives from corporate executives. Yoon-hajae promises the squad will cover for him as Solium accepts his growing notoriety. Chief Kwok calmly notes that he has already received communications regarding Solium's spectacular success. Solemn reassures himself that strict corporate policies will protect him from receiving overly difficult tasks. A timer reveals Squad D's rapid escape, driving Supervisor Lee to absolute fury over his meager earnings. Chief Kwok playfully points out the unfair lack of hazard pay for standard research positions. Chief Kwok startles Supervisor Lee by asking about the group requirements for the upcoming mission. Supervisor Lee explains that 10 people are required, prompting Chief Kwok to note the necessity of team play. Chief Kwok notes down the designated groups, selecting squads A, D, and Y for dispatch. Chief Kwok suddenly acts worried about the selected teams, confusing Supervisor Lee. Chief Kwok laments that Squad D must cooperate with the elite Squad A. Supervisor Lee questions why pairing with an elite squad is problematic, prompting Chief Kwok's inquiry. Chief Kwok reviews the roster, explaining how major companies naturally operate behind the scenes. He grimly suggests that certain corporate operations ultimately require calculated sacrifices to succeed. White chess pieces drift silently in dark, swirling waters, representing discarded assets. Supervisor Lee cracks a dark, sinister smile as the realization sets in. Supervisor Lee fully agrees with Chief Kwok's cold perspective on corporate sacrifices. Scene transitions to a bright room as a voice echoes a polite greeting. Wearing his combat eye mask and small antlers, Solium gasps in sudden surprise. The joint squats assemble in the spacious perfume room, standing ready for their mission. The Lizard Chief asks about the joint exploration, which a masked Yoon-hajae calmly confirms. A soft, quick tap sounds as a hand slides a folder back into a shelf. A smug, blonde-haired man wearing a green mask suddenly looms over a startled Soliev. Solium politely greets him while silently noting the golden marks on the man's mask. The masked blonde man condescendingly praises Solium's reputation and hopes to meet again. Yoon-hajae points out the elite squad members distinguished by their gold-marked masks. Yoon-hajae quietly cautions Solium to keep a close eye on the other squad members. Standing confidently nearby, the elite Squad A members display their distinct golden-marked masks. Yoon-hajae adds that those wearing plain black masks without golden embellishments belong to Squad Y. She notes that Squad Y is uniquely led by a regular employee rather than a chief. Yoon-hajae advises Solium to avoid getting too close or involved with them during this mission. The long-haired Squad Y leader stands quietly, looking away with a somber and distant expression. Solemn recognizes her as the distressed individual from the welcoming ceremony, wondering if revival is possible. Another squad member promises to explain the situation later, to which Solemn calmly complies. Cheerful prompt praises Soliam's social awareness, leaving him entirely bewildered by the backhanded compliment.
Chief Quack joyfully claps his hands, admitting the research team has virtually no information on this darkness.
While the elite squad questions this lack of data, Squad Y reacts with visible tension and sighs. Solemn remains completely silent, maintaining his characteristically blank and unreadable stare. Chief Quack flashes a subtle, mysterious smile behind his glasses. A grim digital record reveals a devastating history of casualties, showing only one case of partial survival. Chief Quack explains that a minimum of 10 people is strictly required to access the anomaly. A bold announcement signals the immediate start of the briefing for the large-scale darkness. A colorful slide displays the entrance to Gaiety Theme Park, describing it as a wonderful fantasy trip. Solemn reflects on the good cafeteria food, finding comfort in the perks of working for the company. Grim news clippings report on 12 college students who vanished playing a board game. The missing game is identified as Gaiety Theme Park, believed to be created by a mysterious institute. Surviving testimonies claim the game was already inside the pension, though the owner denied any involvement. Float-in student IDs and blood splatters highlight the tragic casualties and the severe trauma suffered by survivors. Soliam reviews the file, noting to himself that this particular anomaly has finally made an appearance. With a suddenly sharp slam, Chief Quack proudly presents a box containing their means of entry. A soft ta-da sounds as Chief Quack reveals a mysterious spherical container with a distinct keyhole. As Soliam holds the sphere, Unhaje realizes Chief Quack intends to shuffle the group compositions. Soliam draws a red game pawn from the device, which begins to glow with an ominous light. He observes the red piece, thinking of the color's deeply foreboding significance in this perilous universe. The White Lizard Chief declares that opening the game board will immediately pull them into the darkness. A brilliant flash of rainbow light erupts from the board as it is opened. The intense multicolored energy expands, bathing the entire briefing room in a blinding glow. Solemn suddenly stops, realizing that the other team colors each have 4 members assigned. He notices the red team only has 3 pieces, raising immediate concern for their group size. The White Lizard Chief points out they cannot enter with only 11 members instead of 12. Chief Quack smiles knowingly, realizing he has a simple solution to fill the final slot. Standing quietly in his lab coat, the brown-haired researcher suddenly becomes extremely nervous. The sphere bounces with a sharp tap-tap as Chief Quack unexpectedly tosses it to the startled researcher. The red pawn rolls out with a soft clatter directly into the researcher's trembling hands. The other members watch in absolute shock as a swirling rainbow portal begins opening beneath them. Sinking into the vibrant vortex, the terrified researcher realizes he has just initiated his own entry. A terrified "ag" echoes through the room as the helpless researcher is forcefully dragged downward. The rest of the squad members are instantly swept into the swirling, colorful dimensional rift. Another loud "ah" resounds as a heavy thud signals a foot landing on a solid floor. Chief Quack bids them a pleasant journey with a deeply unsettling, cheerful wave. Falling through the portal, a heavily annoyed Soliam silently curses the mad scientist's reckless methods. Text boxes describe Chief Quack as a psychoscientist who deliberately orchestrates deadly situations for data. Wet splattering sounds echo as water droplets splash against a red-tiled floor beneath falling hands. The nauseous brown-haired researcher retches violently, with the Squad Y leader standing silently nearby. Whimsical music notes float through the air as a solid boot steps onto the park's pathway. Solemn gazes at a majestic, bright fantasy castle under a sky filled with floating red balloons. Red balloons drift past whimsical structures as cheerful music fills the amusement park air. While joyful mascots entertain the crowd, the long-haired Squad Y leader looks on with dread. Solemn watches a single red balloon drift aimlessly against the deceptively cheerful blue sky. Soliam observes his surroundings, realizing they have indeed entered the infamous Gaiety Theme Park. The narrative record confirms that the elite Squad A was dispatched for this large-scale operation. She laments that their disorganized group of Squad D and Y members lacks elite coordination. Worse still, their final teammate is an inexperienced researcher completely unprepared for live exploration. Chilling realization dawns that this mission's true purpose is far from a standard exploration. The grim setup reveals a corporate plot designed to sacrifice everyone except elite Squad A. The title card signals their perilous entrance into this highly deceptive and dangerous ghost story. Sounds of distant laughter and screaming echo eerily from the majestic fantasy castle in the distance. Soliam inspects his hand, discovering a brightly colored red wristband suddenly fastened around his wrist. He looks at his wristband, noting that the expected Fantasyland pass has indeed materialized. Information details the B-rank anomaly, noting players must ride 3 major attractions to escape. The corporate files indicate a B-rank classification, warning of a devastating civilian survival rate. Solemn silently fears for their safety as the panicked researcher collapses in terror beside him. A sudden, terrified scream pierces the festive air, instantly shattering any remaining illusion of safety. The researcher completely loses control, weeping and frantically screaming to be let out of here. Solemn watches the passing bunny mascots with deep dread, realizing their situation is highly dangerous. A hand abruptly slams over the weeping researcher's mouth, harshly commanding him to stay quiet. Solemn desperately restrains the panicked man, whispering another urgent warning to remain completely silent. Within the floating red balloons, ominous shadows of rabbit ears loom over the park's pathways. A towering bunny mascot stands dead ahead, staring down at them with a vacant smile. From behind dark structures, silent bunny mascots keep a watchful and highly unsettling eye on them. Multiple rabbit figures gather inside a dark window, peering out with frozen, smiling faces. The bizarre, well-dressed bunny mascots parade through the streets beneath a sky filled with balloons. Solem stares silently at the exhausted researcher who sits slumped on the pavement in shock. A sudden movement whips long hair past Solium, drawing his immediate and highly guarded attention. Yuan Haji delivers a devastating kick to the face of the weeping, panicking researcher. The researcher groans in pain as he rolls on the tiled floor, utterly overwhelmed. A harsh voice sounds from the darkness, warning him to cease any further complaining immediately. Yoon Ha-jae leans in with a terrifying glare, promising to personally eliminate him next. She demands compliance, leaving the terrified researcher nodding frantically while Solium watches in silence. Surrounded by lunatics, Solium desperately longs for the reassuring presence of his familiar squad mates. The part manual strictly forbids any negative emotions like crying, screaming, or wailing inside. In a bonus comic, Chief Quack playfully invites everyone to try the expensive capsule toy.